Chapter 310. In the end, since Nangong Ao had been dealt with, Ling Yuhan directly entered the Sword Pagoda. However, the crowd still looked at Tianyang in shock. The young master of the Nangong clan, Nangong Ao, was actually killed by Nangong Ao. Not only is this fellow terrifyingly talented, but his courage is also terrifying, someone sighed. Hearing that, the person beside him sneered. It's true that his talent is not bad, but his courage. Oomph. He actually dared to kill Nangong Ao. This fellow is dead meat. The members of the Nangong clan are the most protective. Now that Nangong Ao's Dantian has been destroyed, he has become a cripple. The Nangong clan will definitely be furious. At that time, this fellow will definitely die without a complete corpse. That person sneered. Hearing that, the young man beside him was speechless. The Nangong clan was one of the 4 great clans that dominated the entire Night Dome city. Although this young man's talent was terrifying, he was only at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage. If he offended the Nangong clan, he would definitely die. Tianyang, on the other hand, had a calm expression. To him, Nangong Ao was just a small interlude. Tianyang casually found a seat and sat down. He closed his eyes and took a nap as he quietly waited for Ling Yuhan to finish challenging the Sword Pagoda. Outside the Sword Pagoda, Nangong Ao slowly woke up. Then, he was shocked to discover that his cultivation base was gone. His cultivation base of the 7th level of the origin transformation stage had disappeared just like that. Even his Dantian was destroyed, and his meridians were severely damaged. From now on, Nangong Ao was a cripple. Nangong Ao roared crazily. You actually destroyed my Dantian, my cultivation base. I want you dead. Then, Nangong Ao used up the last bit of true origin left in his body to take out the communication token and send out a message. Then, Nangong Ao closed his eyes and fainted. His Dantian was destroyed, and his entire body was severely injured. It was already his limit to use a little true origin. As for Tianyang, he merely glanced at Nangong Ao with an indifferent expression. Then, he turned his head around and ignored him. In his opinion, Nangong Ao was merely a clown. 2 hours later, a spatial fluctuation came from the entrance of the Sword Pagoda. In the next moment, Ling Yuhan walked out of the teleportation gate. Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly, then chuckled. He stood up and greeted Ling Yuhan, then asked, "How are your results?" "Not bad. I passed the first test of the 5th floor. However, I couldn't pass the later stages and failed the 2nd test. The Tianji Sword Emperor is worthy of being called the Great Emperor of the Way of the Sword. Even with the guidance of my master, I couldn't pass it," Ling Yuhan replied. Then she sighed. Her results were completely different from what she had expected. In her opinion, with Tianyang's guidance, she should have at least passed the 2nd test of the 5th floor. In the end, she was only 1 sword away from being defeated by the Tianji Sword Emperor. Hearing this, the corner of Tianyang's mouth twitched slightly. The Tianji Sword Emperor's disciple was defeated by the Tianji Sword Emperor. How terrifying was the Tianji Sword Emperor? Why was this logic so convoluted? However, before Tianyang could reply, someone sneered. The first test of the 5th floor? Failed the 2nd test. Girl, I know you want to show off in front of your partner, but don't brag too much. The first test of the 5th floor, isn't it comparable to Qiu Mingyue, Crushing Foam Tianming, Dugu Wushuang, and countless other heavenly talents of Night Vault City, second only to the Sword King Tianji? That person sneered. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan frowned slightly. Was there anyone who didn't agree with her? However, in the next moment, a light flashed on the Sword Pagoda steel. The next moment, that person was shocked. Third, Ling Yuhan. She's actually at the same level as Qiu Mingyue. The first test of the 5th floor. Who's this person? F*CK. 3rd level of the origin transformation stage. This is the same as the Sword King Tianji. However, this person's talent is still slightly inferior to the Sword King Tianji. That person was shocked. Then, He recalled what Ling Yuhan had said before and was instantly stunned. He looked at Ling Yuhan in disbelief. You're Ling Yuhan? That's right. Ling Yuhan smiled sweetly and said. Hearing this, that person instantly seemed as if he was struck by lightning, and his entire person was stunned on the spot. Previously, when he heard Ling Yuhan report the number, he thought she was bragging. In the end, it was actually her. This wave of face slapping was simply ruthless. Seeing that person was shocked to the point of being stunned, Tianyang smiled and scratched Ling Yuhan's delicate nose. Although this result is not bad, you can't be arrogant. There are countless geniuses in Heaven Continent. Although your talent has already surpassed the entire Sky Vault city and ranked at the top in the entire Sky Vault territory, it's nothing in the central region. Tianyang said solemnly. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded. I understand, Master. I'll work hard. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled with satisfaction and then entered the Sword Pagoda. After not coming for a few months, he also wanted to test how great his improvement was. 15 minutes later, Tianyang walked out of the Sword Pagoda with a helpless expression on his face. Seeing this, the person who was shocked by Ling Yuhan immediately jumped out and mocked. Ha! You failed to pass the Sword Pagoda, right? Although your combat strength isn't weak, this Sword Pagoda is exclusive to sword cultivators. Even if you can defeat Nangong AO, the Sword Pagoda tests the cultivation of sword principle. That person mocked. Then, he pretended to be mature and turned around with his hands behind his back. Young man, it's better not to bite off more than you can chew. I heard that Sword King Tianji is also very young, but he has already broken through to the 6th level. However, since your combat strength is so strong, your talent in sword principle must not be weak. It's natural that you didn't get a good result this time. If you work hard in the future, you will definitely be stronger. That person said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan looked at him as if he was an idiot. Don't tell me you're an idiot? Hearing this, that person was instantly enraged. At this moment, there were exclamations in front of the Sword Pagoda steel. He moved again. The Sword Pagoda steel changed again. Hearing this, that person's expression changed slightly. Could it be that this guy has broken through to the Sword Pagoda steel? Thinking of what he had said previously, that person felt like he had slapped himself and became a complete joke. It's Sword King Tianji. He moved again. The second test of the 7th level. F*CK. That person exclaimed. Hearing this, the entire Sword Pagoda was in an uproar. Sword King Tianji, the 7th level? This result was simply explosive. On the other hand, some people's eyes moved and immediately realized that something was wrong, including the person who pretended to be profound. They all cast their gazes on Tianyang. Just now, only Tianyang was in the Sword Pagoda. He's Sword King Tianji. That person said with a bitter face. Chapter 311. This youth was actually the renowned Sword King Empyrean Extreme. That person shook, a bitter expression on his face. Had he ridiculed the Sword King before? Damn it. Even those sword practitioners in the Dao Fire Realm can't pass the second test on the 7th floor. How can he pretend to be helpless when he has such a result? Is he trying to fool people? That person howled in his heart. However, no one present could understand the sorrow in his heart. Instead, they all looked at Tianyang with blazing eyes. Sword King Empyrean Pole. Everyone in the Sword Pagoda started moving at the same time. Sword King, can I have your autograph? No paper? No problem, sign on my chest. The person who said this was a young girl with rather good looks. However, before Tianyang could react, Ling Yuhan had already driven her away. She was Tianyang's first disciple, Ling Yuhan, and someone dared to harass her master? Sword King, I'm a manager of the Winchim sect. Sword King, are you free? Would you like to join our Winchim sect? The person who said this was a middle-aged man at the first heaven of the Dao Fire Realm. However, this usually superior Dao Fire Realm cultivator was looking at Tianyang eagerly. However, before Tianyang could react, someone sneered. Get out of here. Sword King is from Sky Blue College. How could he abandon Sky Blue College to join the Winchim sect that you've never heard of? But Sword King, Sky Blue College is just a college. If you want to join other forces in the future, would you consider our Sky Sword Pavilion? Sky Sword Pavilion? Is it the Sky Sword Pavilion, the #1 sword practitioner force in the Firmament territory? Damn it, even such a force has appeared. Someone exclaimed. The Sky Sword Pavilion was the #1 sword practitioner force in the Firmament territory. Although it was slightly weaker than Sky Blue College, it was still the best place for a sword practitioner. However, on second thought, who was Sword King Tianji? He had created a new record on the Sword Pagoda Steel. He was only at the peak of the 6th level of the Origin Transformation Realm, but he had reached the 7th floor of the Sword Pagoda. Such talent in the Sword Principle was terrifying. There was no way the Sky Sword Pavilion would let go of such a genius. Right at that moment, an angry roar came from outside, directly interrupting everyone's conversation. Who is it? Who crippled my brother Nangong Ao? Come on, die. His voice rumbled like thunder, containing boundless rage. It was as if it would explode in the next moment. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed. They turned their heads in shock and looked at the person standing at the door. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they stared fixedly at that person. After all, although Nangong Ao's cultivation was not bad, there were many people in the Nangong family who were stronger than him. His status was not very high. However, this person was different. Not only was he the son of the Nangong family head, but his talent and cultivation were also extremely powerful. The Nangong family was ranked in the top 5 in Sky Blue College, not including the outer court. It's him. Oh no, Tianji is in trouble. One of them said in disbelief as his expression changed drastically. Even the expressions of the Dao Fire Realm cultivators changed slightly. A powerful dragon could not suppress a snake in its own territory. The Nangong family was undoubtedly a snake in its own territory, and they were far from being a powerful dragon. Everyone looked at Tianyang worriedly. This was definitely a huge crisis. The Nangong family's genius was not as easy to deal with as Nangong Ao. That person's walking speed wasn't fast. In fact, it could even be considered slow. However, every step he took caused everyone's hearts to tremble. Based on their understanding of the Nangong family's genius, the calmer he was, the angrier he was. Now that this guy was so calm, he must have sunk into boundless rage. Heavenly Sun was most likely finished. Soon, that person arrived in front of Tianyang and looked at Tianyang. Ling Yuhan looked serious, but Tianyang looked at the person in front of him with a playful smile. The Nangong family's genius went from anger to shock and then fear. He even took a few steps back and trembled. He would never forget that it was this person who had taught him a lesson on the lightning Dao that he was so proud of. It was this person who had dealt with the Nangong family's disciples time and time again. He was defeated by him and took away his position on the outer court's genius roll. He had left Sky Blue College because he did not want to meet Tianyang. Unexpectedly, Tianyang had also left the college. Moreover, he had bumped into him. Long time no see, Nangong Feng. That's right, the Nangong family's genius, the top 5 in Sky Blue College's outer court, was Nangong Feng. Seeing the fear on Nangong Feng's face, Tianyang's playful smile became even brighter. I think I heard you say that you want me to go out and die. Hearing this, Nangong Feng's entire body trembled as if he was about to sift through a sieve. I'm standing in front of you now. Why don't you kill me? Tianyang smiled. Nangong Feng trembled even more when he heard that. I wouldn't dare. If I knew young Master Tian was here, I wouldn't have dared to come. Nangong Feng pulled a long face. Tianyang smiled when he heard that. He took a step forward and looked at Nangong Feng indifferently. Are you saying that I'm a tyrant, and that's why you didn't dare to come? Nangong Feng hurriedly said, No, I was intimidated by young Master Tian's dazzling figure, handsome face, and upright character. I was afraid that I would be ashamed if I met you, so I didn't dare to come. Everyone's expression became strange when they heard that. Shouldn't it be Nangong Feng and Sword King Tianji fighting fiercely, starting a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger? Why was Nangong Feng acting like this? Brother, What are you doing? Kill him now. This guy destroyed my Danteon. I want him to be torn into pieces. And that be asterisk TSH. I want her to serve me for 3 days and 3 nights. Then I'll send her to the brothel and let her be ridden by 10,000 men. Nangong Ao lay on the ground and shouted crazily. Tianyang's face turned cold when he heard that. Nangong Feng's face turned even paler. He had already cursed Nangong Ao countless times in his heart. Can't you see that your brother is in big trouble? How dare you come here and cause trouble for me? Your brother seems to be very powerful, Tianyang said coldly. Nangong Feng shuddered when he heard that. He immediately reacted and said, Calm down, young Master Tian. Why do I need you to deal with this kind of scum? I'll go over now and break his limbs, Nangong Feng said loudly. Then he turned around and stabbed Nangong Ao's limbs with his spear. Although they were still there, it was almost impossible for him to recover unless he had a level 5 pill. Brother, how can you do this? My hands, my legs. Nangong Ao screamed in pain. In the end, he fainted again. Nangong Feng grabbed him and said to Tianyang in a flattering tone, Don't worry, young Master Tian. You don't need to do anything to deal with this guy. I'll take my leave first. As soon as Nangong Feng finished his sentence, he ran away as if there was oil on the soles of his feet. He knew very well that if Tianyang attacked, it wouldn't be his limbs that were broken, but his life. On the way, Nangong Feng's flattering face turned cold. How dare he humiliate me and force me to kill my own brother? This guy deserves to die. Chapter 3:12. After sending Nangong Feng away, Tianyang didn't leave immediately. However, those who wanted to recruit Tianyang didn't dare to do anything. Even though they were Dao Fire Realm experts, they couldn't afford to offend the Nangong nobles. If they tried to recruit Tianyang, they would definitely incur the wrath of the Nangong nobles. In that case, they had to weigh the pros and cons. What a pity. The Nangong nobles are the overlords of Night Dome City. How could they be so simple? What's on the surface is often unimportant. Not only did Tianji cripple Nangong Ao's cultivation, but he also made Nangong Feng break Nangong Ao's limbs. This will definitely incur the wrath of the Nangong nobles. I reckon that Night Dome City won't be able to tolerate Tianji. That person sighed softly and got up to leave. Seeing that person leave, the others followed suit. Soon, only Tianyang and Ling Yuhan were left in the Sword Pagoda. A bunch of snobs, Ling Yuhan said indignantly when she saw that everyone had left. Hearing that, Tianyang just smiled. They recruited me because I can bring them benefits. Now, the benefits they can get from recruiting me are still unknown, but they have to bear the risk of offending the Nangong nobles. After weighing the pros and cons, they naturally left. Moreover, I'm now a member of Sky Blue College. In a short period of time, I can't bring any benefits to their forces. It's natural for them to give up like this, Tianyang said indifferently. As the Tianji Sword Emperor, he had seen the fickleness of human nature in his previous life. In this martial world, not only was strength respected, but benefits were also paramount. If you were beneficial to him, he would naturally treat you as a treasure. Once your value was no longer there, he would naturally abandon you like a worn-out shoe. However, even though she said that, Ling Yuhan was still a little angry. It's their loss that they didn't recruit Master. Ling Yuhan stomped her feet indignantly and said angrily, There's nothing to do here. Master, why don't we go back? There's no hurry. Tianyang smiled. He walked to the entrance of the Sword Pagoda and looked into the distance. In the academy, other than cultivating, there's nothing much for us to do. At most, we'll just head to the Void Lightning Hall to try our luck. Or maybe we can go to the arena to fight, but we're not familiar with Sky Blue College. Even if we go to the arena, I don't think anyone will fight with us. Tianyang laughed. Now that we're out of the city, there are people who want to play with us. Of course, I have to wait. I wonder what kind of opponent that Nangong Feng will find for me, Tianyang said with a smile. He treated the Sword Pagoda as his own home. He casually pulled out a chair and sat down beside the door. Ling Yuhan nodded as if he understood and sat down as well. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan did not wait for long. After 15 minutes, Nan Gongfeng's figure appeared in front of them again. Huh, I didn't expect the two of you to still dare to stay after I broke Nan Gong Ao's limbs. That's good too. Now I can kill you directly. Nan Gongfeng sneered. Beside him, a tall figure stood between the heavens and the earth. The aura of the peak 9th level of the origin transformation stage was emitted. The enormous pressure even caused the surrounding people's expressions to change drastically. Isn't that the madman from the Dongfang family, Dongfang Pei? This fellow actually came back. Rumor has it that this person is extremely perverted. Not only does he like to rape women, but he also especially likes married women. Wasn't this fellow sent to the battlefield a long time ago? Everyone stopped in their tracks and exclaimed in shock. Hearing this, the burly man revealed a sinister smile. Huh, that's right. I was indeed sent to the battlefield. But I'm back. The burly man laughed maniacally. Then, he looked at Tianyang and frowned slightly. Nan Gongfeng, this is the fellow that you found for me? He's just a gigolo. Is he worth my time? The burly man sneered. Hearing this, Nan Gongfeng hurriedly flattered. This fellow looks like a gigolo, but his combat power is actually extraordinary. Moreover, do you see the young lady beside him? She's so beautiful. She's a perfect match for you, young Master Pei. Nan Gongfeng flattered. Hearing this, the burly man, Dongfang Pei, turned his head and instantly saw Ling Yuhan. His eyes suddenly lit up. Not bad, not bad. You're quite a good person. You only know how to find a plaything for young Master Pei as soon as you come back. Then this girl belongs to me. As for that gigolo, you can do whatever you want with him after I cripple him. Dongfang Pei laughed loudly. His words showed that he did not take Tianyang seriously at all. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed drastically. This madman, was he going to bully everyone as soon as he came back? Then, everyone looked at Tianyang sympathetically and sighed. Not only was Dongfang Pei at the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage, but his combat power was also extremely powerful. He could almost wrestle with a powerhouse at the half-step Dao fire stage. This young man's cultivation was at most at the 5th or 6th level of the origin transformation stage. He would definitely die if he faced Dongfang Pei. Hearing this, Nan Gongfeng was delighted. He looked coldly at Tianyang and mocked. Aren't you powerful, Tianyang? Now that young Master Pei has made his move, you'll die a worthy death. Don't worry, young Master Pei won't kill you. However, I'll let you see your woman being played by young Master Pei. I'll cut you into pieces, Nan Gongfeng said viciously. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. A murderous intent was truly released. He had already spared Nan Gongfeng's life a few times, but in the end, he still found a fellow who not only wanted to kill him, but also wanted to snatch Ling Yuhan. Tianyang could not tolerate either of these. Little girl, come over here. Dongfang Pei laughed loudly. He took a few steps forward and his aura exploded. In an instant, everyone was stunned. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's expression changed drastically. Tianyang snorted coldly and went directly in front of Ling Yuhan. You dare to block me? Seeing Tianyang's figure, Dongfang Pei's expression changed instantly. He said ferociously, You're courting death. Earth rank inferior martial skill, crumbling mountain and river. Dongfang Pei roared furiously. The true origin of the peak 9th level of the origin transformation stage exploded and blasted violently toward Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang smiled faintly. You haven't mastered this martial skill yet. In the next instant, facing the earth rank inferior martial skill, crumbling mountain and river, Tianyang took a step forward. Boom! A surge of aura instantly shattered this move. Tianyang did not even make a move. Young man, you're quite capable. However, I haven't used my full strength yet. Wait for me to use my full strength, then you'll be dead. Dongfang Pei was stunned and then mocked. Nonsense, have you said enough? Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Dongfang Pei was stunned and then said furiously, You're courting death. If you've said enough, then be on your way. Tianyang said indifferently. In the next instant, Tianyang flew into the air. His foot stepped on Dongfang Pei's body. Instantly, Dongfang Pei's face turned red and his body trembled. He seemed to have used all his strength in an attempt to block this kick. However, Tianyang merely snorted coldly, and Dongfang Pei's defense completely collapsed. Boom! Blood splattered everywhere as flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Dongfang Pei, who was known as a lunatic, was defeated by Tianyang. Chapter 3:13. The famous lunatic in the Dongfang clan, Dongfang Pei, who was at the peak of the 9th level origin transformation stage, was right in front of them. In such a short time, Tianyang stomped him to death. What? Everyone was in an uproar as they stared at Heavenly Sun in disbelief. Heavenly Sun, on the other hand, had an indifferent expression on his face, as if he didn't care about the blood and flesh that had splattered everywhere. Instead, he looked at Nan Gongfeng quietly with a mocking smile on his face. I let you go a few times before because I thought you were sensible. In the end, you found me this trash opponent? TSK, TSK. I don't want to waste my time talking to you. I'll just kill you. Tianyang chuckled. He straightened his palm like a knife, and a surge of killing intent was released from his body. Nan Gongfeng trembled when he saw this. He looked at Dongfang Pei, who had turned into a pool of blood on the ground. He had never imagined that the infamous lunatic Dongfang Pei of Night Dome City would be crushed by Heavenly Sun with a single stomp. You, Nan Gongfeng said in a trembling voice. In the next moment, he seemed to have thought of something and said fiercely, "You can't kill me." Oh, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. What's this again? What clan or sect is behind you? Once I kill you, I'll definitely suffer thunderous revenge? Usually, people who say this have died under my sword. Tianyang chuckled. He narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flashed in his eyes, causing Nan Gongfeng to tremble. Nan Gongfeng's words were blocked, and he could only take a few steps back in fear. He only stopped when he could no longer retreat. You still can't kill me. Nan Gongfeng roared again. Tianyang chuckled when he heard this. What new tricks do you have now? Give me a reason not to kill you. You can't kill for no reason in Xiaoqiang City. It was reasonable for you to kill Dongfang Pei when he wanted to deal with you. However, I didn't do anything to you, so you can't kill me. If you kill me, you will definitely die in the pursuit of the City Lord Mansion. The City Lord's Mansion is much stronger than the 4 great clans. Even Sky Blue College doesn't dare to offend the City Lord's Mansion. Nan Gongfeng roared. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned and looked at the people around him. The surrounding people nodded as well. Indeed, you can't kill someone for no reason in Night Vault City. If you kill Nan Gongfeng, you'll definitely be targeted by the city governor's estate. Tianyang frowned again, but he immediately relaxed and chuckled. I don't believe that you've been holed up in Night Vault City all this time. Once you return to the academy, wouldn't it be easy for me to kill you? Hearing this, Nan Gongfeng's expression changed drastically. It was true that killing was not allowed in Night Dome City, but Sky Blue College was different. At that time, Tianyang could say that fists and kicks had no eyes and accidentally killed him. Sky Blue College would never fall out with a genius like Tianyang over a dead person. Damn it. However, if you kill me now, you'll have a chance. Nan Gongfeng's face darkened, and he said coldly, There's a fighting arena in Night Dome City called the Gladiator Arena. Over there, regardless of life or death, the rules of Night Dome City can be ignored. If you challenge me there, I'll let you kill me as you wish. The Nangong nobles won't say a word. Nan Gongfeng roared. His mind was spinning fast, and he quickly came up with a meticulous plan. A sinister smile appeared on his face. If Tianyang went to the Gladiator Arena, he would definitely die. The Gladiator Arena was jointly run by the 4 big families. Oh, hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Are you seeking your own death? Hearing this, Nan Gongfeng was stunned. He was about to be killed, but he still gave Tianyang a way out. That was indeed seeking his own death. However, Nan Gongfeng still said coldly, Humph, As the 21st genius of Sky Blue College's Outer Yard Genius role, it's impossible that you haven't been to the Gladiator Arena before. By then, your reputation as a useless coward will spread, Nangong Feng said. Hearing this, Tianyong only chuckled. This little provocation won't work on me. However, you've successfully piqued my interest. Lead the way. Hearing this, Nangong Feng was furious. How dare he ask him to lead the way? He was the young master of the Nangong nobles. Was he Tianyong's underling? However, Nangong Feng thought about it and suppressed his anger. Tianyong was going to die soon. Why should he be angry with him now? Humph! Nangong Feng snorted and walked toward the gladiator arena. Tianyong and Ling Yuhan followed him. Most of the onlookers also followed. Someone was going to have a gladiator arena with the young master of the Nangong nobles. This was big news. Then, a group of people rushed to the gladiator arena. The gladiator arena. It was a huge, dark building. There was an empty space in the middle, which was the arena for the gladiator arena. The other places were the spectator seats and the various private rooms. There was another place near the entrance. It was the place for betting. Since there was a gladiator arena, there would naturally be a place for betting. With a sweep of his soul power, Tianyong thoroughly scanned the entire area. There's nothing strange about it. Tianyong's heart skipped a beat, but he immediately understood. The gladiator arena is an important building in Night Dome City. Young Master Nangong might not be able to affect it. Then, with Nangong Feng leading the way, Tianyong walked into the gladiator arena. Ha! Tianyong, you're going to die. Just as he entered, Nangong Feng suddenly turned around and roared. The gladiator arena is divided into 4 levels: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. You're just a yellow-grade martial artist, and I'm a black-grade martial artist. If you want to challenge me, you'll have to defeat 100 people and be promoted to a black-grade martial artist. Nangong Feng laughed. Hearing this, Tianyong chuckled. As expected, Nangong Feng would not die so easily. However, you want to stop me with just 100 people? You're dreaming. This is your warrior token. I can already see your death. Nangong Feng laughed wildly and threw a token to Tianyong. Tianyong caught it steadily. Looking at the 2 words Tianyong on it, he smiled. I've already arranged it. The next battle will be yours. Nangong Feng laughed ferociously before he left. The others shook their heads. Tianyong was dead meat. Hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows slightly. It seemed that Nangong Feng was quite powerful in Shaoqiang City to be able to arrange the battle at will. However, this was good too. Wouldn't it be better to end the battle quickly? Yuhan, come here. At this moment, Tianyong suddenly waved at Ling Yuhan, and Ling Yuhan walked over. Tianyong took Ling Yuhan's space bag and gave almost all the spiritual stones in his space bag to Ling Yuhan. Master, what are you doing? Ling Yuhan asked curiously. At this moment, Tianyong smiled evilly. Aren't there bets here? I reckon that the Nangong family has a share in the gladiator arena. Then, place your bets. Scam them to death. Tianyong said telepathically. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan immediately understood. Looking at the 10 million spiritual stones in her space bag, the corner of her lips curled up. The gladiator arena was probably going to cry. At this moment, a voice was heard. Chapter 314. Next round, Tianyong against Blood Demon. A cold voice was heard. Tianyong chuckled and walked towards the entrance. Ling Yuhan had a wicked smile on her face. She took the space bag that Tianyong had given her and walked towards the betting area. Tianyong? Who's that? The people in the audience were curious when they heard the announcement. They cursed when they saw Tianyong enter the arena. F***CK. It's a newbie against Blood Demon who has a 9-win streak. Isn't he courting death? This gladiator arena is such a scam. That person said angrily. The crowd was stunned when they heard that. They looked at Tianyong and cursed him as well. In the Nangong family's private room, Nangong Feng had a hideous smile on his face as he stared at Tianyong. The Nangong family has 100 men of sacrifice who are no weaker than me in a gladiator arena. Some of them are even stronger than me, a black-grade martial artist. So what if he killed Dongfang Pei? He's going to die if he offends the Nangong family. Nangong Feng laughed out loud. Then he looked at the field. Although Blood Demon isn't from the Nangong family, he's not weak. I might not be a match for him. This is a good opportunity to test Tianyang's strength. It would be best if he could kill Tianyang directly. Nangong Feng sneered. The betting area finally opened. Tianyang against Blood Demon. Tianyang, a newbie who just became a yellow-grade martial artist today. Odds are 120. Blood Demon. He has a 9-win streak and is about to become a black-grade martial artist. Blood Demon's odds are 1-2. The person at the betting booth shouted. At this moment, many people in the spectator stands rushed over to Lin Fan. 500,000 low-grade spiritual stones. I'll bet on Blood Demon. This Tianyang is a newcomer. How can he defeat the Blood Demon? I bet all my money on him. 1 million low-grade spirit stones. Blood Demon. Blood Demon will definitely beat Tianyang up. 2 million Blood Seeker. Everyone shouted madly as they placed their spirit stones on the Blood Demon. After all, the Blood Demon was a famous demonic cultivator. Peak 9th level of the origin transformation stage. With the Blood Demon dual blades in hand, his attack power was unparalleled. Perhaps only geniuses from the 4 aristocratic families, the City Lord Mansion, or Sky Blue College could defeat him. It was clear who would win and who would lose. Therefore, even though Tianyang's odds were 120, no one placed their bets on Tianyang. 15 million spirit stones, Tianyang. At this moment, Ling Yuhan arrived in front of the betting pit. Facing the pitch-black, ferocious betting pit, she said indifferently. Her voice wasn't loud, and it was slightly cold. Hearing this, the people who were betting on the Blood Demon were stunned. Miss, you're wrong. The person in the betting pit was stunned as well, and he reminded her. Then, he bitterly lamented. This young girl is here to give him money. Why did I stop her? That's right. 15 million spirit stones on Tianyang. Ling Yuhan calmly repeated. Then he placed the single-use space bag with 15 million spirit stones on top of the betting table. Seeing this, the person in the betting pit didn't say anything. He glanced at Ling Yuhan as if she was an idiot, put it away, and recorded it. When the people beside her saw this, they all ridiculed. This little girl is probably bewitched by the odds. Hee, Tianyang is a newcomer. How could he defeat the Blood Demon? Forget it. If she wants to give money, then let her. Although this Blood Demon's odds aren't high, we can still make a small profit. That person laughed loudly. At this moment, Ling Yuhan had already left the betting pit and arrived at the spectator seats. After 15 minutes of betting time had passed, the battle in the arena was about to begin. I, the Blood Demon, have a cultivation at the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage. I've already won 9 consecutive battles today, and my record has reached 99 victories. As long as I kill you, I can advance to the profound stage. The Blood Demon was dressed in blood-red clothes. He looked arrogantly at Tianyang, and the killing intent in his eyes was not concealed. As long as he killed this person, he would be a profound stage martial artist with a rather high status in Night Dome City. A profound stage martial artist had a noble status, and it was absolutely not something an ordinary yellow stage martial artist could compare to. Report your name. I, the Blood Demon, don't kill nameless people. The Blood Demon said arrogantly. His spatial bag moved, and 2 Blood Demon dual sabers appeared in his hands. Hearing this, Tianyang laughed lightly. Tianyang, peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage. Just as Tianyang was speaking, the Blood Demon had already circulated his true essence and brandished his dual sabers to kill. Shameless. Seeing this scene, the crowd was incomparably shocked. This Blood Demon was someone who was about to become a profound stage martial artist, but in the end, he actually dared to take advantage of a peak 6th level of the origin transformation stage martial artist. However, the others were incomparably cold. In their opinion, Tianyang would die sooner or later. It didn't matter if he died sooner or later. After killing you, I'll be a high and mighty profound stage martial artist. The Blood Demon laughed wildly. The 2 Blood Demon dual sabers in his hands were like 2 blood-red rays of light, exploding with boundless sharpness. In the next moment, the Blood Demon charged in front of Tianyang. Peerless profound stage martial skill, blood flame slash. The blood demon roared, and his true essence at the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage completely erupted. Two balls of blood-red flames suddenly ignited on the blood demon dual sabers. It's actually the blood demon's strongest move, blood flame slash. It looks like the blood demon is going all out in order to become a profound stage martial artist. This kid is dead for sure. Seeing this slash, the spectators were instantly shocked. Then, their gazes shot towards Tianyang. Strange, why isn't he dodging? Could it be that he's resigned to his fate? At this moment, facing the slash burning with blood-red flames, Tianyang's slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened. You actually refined so many Een soul sabers. It looks like you've killed quite a number of innocent people. Tianyang's gaze was cold as he looked at the blood demon who wanted to kill him in front of him and coldly shouted, "Scram!" Hearing this, the blood demon smiled malevolently. Just as he was about to say something, a terrifying force directly shattered his attack in the next moment. Ah! Following that, his physical body was also forcefully destroyed. Not even a trace of his soul was left. In the gladiator arena, the blood demon, who was infinitely close to a profound stage martial artist, 9 consecutive victories, just like that, annihilated by Tianyang with a single shout. The entire gladiator arena instantly fell silent. Everyone's face revealed a trace of disbelief as they stared fixedly at Tianyang. Tianyang didn't even make a move. He only said scram, and the result? They were extremely optimistic about the blood demon, who could kill Tianyang with a single move and become a new profound stage martial artist. Chapter 3:15. Kill with a shout. Seeing blood demon's corpse, the crowd shuddered in fear. How is this possible? In the Nangong family's private room, Nangong Feng stood up abruptly and said angrily, "He killed blood demon without even making a move. How is this possible? Isn't this guy strong in his lightning principle, sword principle, and physical strength? What kind of strange ability is that?" Nangong Feng was furious, but his heart was filled with fear. Tianyang actually had the ability to kill his opponent without using a single move. Who the hell was this guy? What kind of monster did I offend? In the next moment, Nangong Feng's expression changed, and he became vicious. He took out his communication token and sent a message. However, the 100 warriors of the Nangong family are not to be trifled with. When the time comes, no matter how strange your attack is, you'll still die under the wheel of attrition. Nangong Feng said angrily as he threw a porcelain cup in his hand and smashed it into pieces. At this moment, the audience was filled with wailing. What an upset. I lost so much. This blood demon is too useless. He was actually killed by a single roar. My 3 million spiritual stones. Bastard. Countless people in the audience were roaring. Almost everyone in the audience had bet on blood demon. However, they did not expect Tianyang, a newcomer, to be so terrifying. He only shouted, "Get lost." He killed blood demon directly. That was unbelievably terrifying. Tianyang said to the judge with a smile, "I should have won this time, right?" Hearing that, the judge quickly nodded. You won, of course you won. I wonder if you would like to continue fighting? If you continue to fight and achieve 10 consecutive victories, a portion of the spirit stones on the bets will belong to you," the judge said. Hearing that, Tianyang's eyes lit up. "I see. Great. Hurry up and call someone up. My sword is thirsty for blood." Hearing that, the judge was speechless. However, he still took out his communication token and contacted the gladiator arena to arrange an opponent. In the spectator stands, a group of people were still wailing. The only one who maintained a smile was Ling Yuhan. She had always believed that her master was invincible. Moreover, with the odds of 1 to 20, her 15 million low-grade spiritual stones had become 300 million low-grade spiritual stones. Even when they raided the Sky Moon country, they didn't get so many spiritual stones. The people in the gladiator arena also had ugly expressions. They didn't expect that Tianyang, a pure newcomer, would make such a big upset. However, there were simply too many people who had placed their bets on Shui Mo. Thus, even though they had suffered losses, they did not lose much. Here are your 300 million low-grade spirit stones and the 15 million spirit stones from your previous bet. The person from the gladiator arena reluctantly took out an extra-large space bag and a single-use space bag given by Ling Yuhan. Ling Yuhan smiled as she took the two interspatial bags and transferred 15 million low-grade spiritual stones into the large interspatial bag. Is Tianyang still going to fight? Hearing this, the person in the betting booth's expression changed. He hurriedly took out his communication token to contact the person from the gladiator arena. Then, he nodded affirmatively. Yes, also, would you like to place your bet? Who's the opponent? Blood Axe Frenzy Demon, Jiang Wuji, who has won 11 consecutive matches. The person in the betting booth said. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Blood Axe Frenzy Demon, Jiang Wuji. Damn, this Heavenly Son had only won one match. Was there need to send him out? This Jiang Wuji is so much stronger than the Blood Demon. Everyone was shocked. Hearing this, the person in the betting booth could only smile bitterly. That's the arrangement. Do you still want to place your bets? Tianyang's odds are 1-5. Blood Axe Frenzy Demon Jiang Wuji's odds are 1-1.5. Damn, the gladiator arena is really black-hearted. Jiang Wuji's odds are so low. However, I'll place my bet. 3 million spiritual stones on Jiang Wuji. 7 million spiritual stones on Jiang Wuji. This is a sure win. 20 million on Jiang Wuji. 30 million. 50 million. 3 million. 9,990,000. The bets were all placed on Jiang Wuji without exception. In just a few minutes, the bets on Jiang Wuji had reached a terrifying amount of 500 million. One had to know that Shui Mo only had a little over 200 million just now. Looking at the situation, there would be more people betting on Jiang Wuji. What's Jiang Wuji's cultivation level? Ling Yuhan asked with a frown in order to pretend to be normal. Half-step Dao Fire Realm cultivation level. Although his cultivation level isn't very high, his blood axe is extremely terrifying. No one who went up against him had a complete corpse. However, Jiang Wuji hasn't been in the gladiator arena for long. Now, he only has 50 victories. He's still a bit away from becoming a black stage warrior. The person in the betting booth said. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan frowned slightly. Then, she took out 315 million from before. Your 315 million low-grade spiritual stones on Tianyang. Ling Yuhan said loudly. Hearing this, the surrounding people, the people at the betting booth, were instantly dumbfounded. However, this time, no one mocked. Tianyang killed Shui Mo with a shout. Perhaps he used some secret techniques, but it also proved his strength. It was normal for people to speculate on Tianyang. 315 million spiritual stones? Okay, the person in the betting booth was overjoyed. He didn't expect this person to have so much money. He hurriedly put away the large space bag and registered it on the paper. Then, 15 minutes of betting time passed again. Jiang Wuji had 700 million low-grade spiritual stones on him. Tianyang only had 320 million. Other than Ling Yuhan, there was only one other person who bet 5 million on Tianyang. It was obvious that Tianyang wasn't favored. At this time, Shui Mo and Jiang Wuji also entered the arena. Jiang Wuji was extremely tall. He held a blood-red giant axe in his hand. His scarlet eyes were filled with crazy killing intent. I didn't expect my opponent to be such a gigolo. Die. Jiang Wuji laughed wildly. Look at your soft skin and tender flesh. I'm going to torture you to death. In the next moment, Jiang Wuji swung his giant blood-red axe and slashed at Tianyang. When Tianyang saw this, he frowned slightly. This guy's consciousness was filled with blood and killing. He didn't have any clarity at all. It could be said that this person was a killing maniac. Earth-class low-grade martial technique, blood-red, mountain-shattering axe. Jiang Wuji roared. He raised the giant axe in his hand and was about to kill Tianyang. At this time, Tianyang frowned slightly. He looked at Jiang Wuji and shouted coldly. Get lost. In the next moment, boom, his physical body was obliterated and his soul exploded. Even the blood-red giant axe, which had the power of a high-grade artifact, trembled and shattered. It was another cold shout. Shui Mo, Jiang Wuji died. Chapter 316. It was another kill with a shout. With a bang, the interspatial bag fell to the ground. Tianyang reached out and caught it. Tianyang didn't even look at it and put it into his own interspatial bag. He didn't control it well before and even destroyed Shuima's interspatial bag. Now, Tianyang naturally wouldn't let it go. How is that possible? In the audience, countless people were shocked and stared at Tianyang as if he was some kind of demon. That's Jiang Wuji, who has already won 11 consecutive victories. Even Blood Devil is no match for him. He was actually killed by this young man. Moreover, he used such a strange and unimaginable method. Everyone was shocked. Then countless people hugged their heads and wailed again. They had bet heavily on Jiang Wuji. Now that Jiang Wuji was dead, their spirit stones were directly wasted. Oof. This Tianyang can only show off for a while. The 100 warriors of the Nangong family have already arrived. If you continue to challenge, then you can just wait for death. Nangong Feng's face was cold as he looked at Tianyang coldly in the box and said resentfully. Meanwhile, in the audience stands, that wretched Jiang Wuji. The crowd roared in anger, and among the audience, there were only two people who were smiling. One of them was Ling Yuhan, who had a slight smile on her face. Although the 315 million spirit stones that she had bet on Tianyang had become close to 6 billion after the 1:5 ratio, she was still able to do so. However, she was not very excited. Instead, she was very calm. In her opinion, Tianyang was invincible. Not to mention Jiang Wuji. Even if Qiu Mingwei, Feng Tianming, and Duga Wushuang came, they would only be killed by Tianyang. The other person was the person who bet 5 million spiritual stones on Tianyang. At this moment, he was already trembling and almost wanted to laugh to the sky. 5 million spiritual stones, 1:5 ratio, that was 25 million. Including the capital, he had 30 million in wealth. Such wealth could absolutely be considered to be above average in Dark Sky City. Ha 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 ha. That person laughed loudly, angering the surrounding people so much that they wanted nothing more than to beat this guy to death. However, in the spectator stands, killing was strictly prohibited. Thus, the crowd could do nothing to him. As for the people in the gladiator arena, their faces were as gloomy as if their fathers had died. Only 700 million spirit stones were placed on Jiang Wuji, but just Ling Yuhan alone, the gladiator arena would have to pay nearly 1.6 billion spirit stones. In addition to the middle-aged man, the gladiator arena had lost more than 900 million in this round. This was almost a year's worth of profit for the gladiator arena. Damn it, the people from the gladiator arena roared. However, in the face of Ling Yuhan's request, they still did not dare to take it for themselves. The gladiator arena relied on its reputation. If the price was too high and they lost their trust, the reputation of the gladiator arena would be ruined. Here are your 1,575,000,000 low-grade spirit stones. Because the gladiator arena is unable to mobilize so many low-grade spirit stones in a short period of time, we exchange them for high-grade spirit weapons. Does the pavilion master agree? Someone from the gladiator arena said, with a pained expression. This 575 billion was like a piece of meat being ruthlessly cut off from the gladiator arena's body. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan raised her eyebrows slightly. Upper spiritual stones? The northern wilderness region was remote, and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was not abundant. Therefore, even if there were spiritual stone veins, it was difficult to produce middle or upper spiritual stones. However, things were different in the firmament territory, where the spiritual chi was extremely abundant, and some large transactions even used medium spiritual stones or upper spiritual stones as the equivalent. It was not strange for the gladiator arena to take out upper spiritual stones. It was just that Ling Yuhan had not seen it before. Okay, Ling Yuhan nodded slightly. Hearing this, the people from the gladiator arena were delighted. He was worried that Ling Yuhan would not agree and the gladiator arena would not be able to make money. Then, according to the exchange rate between middle and lower spiritual stones is 100, and upper spiritual stones are 100, so the exchange rate between upper spiritual stones and lower spiritual stones is 10,000. Here are 157,500 upper spiritual stones. Your Excellency, please keep them. The people from the gladiator arena were very fast and immediately counted out enough spiritual stones. Then, Ling Yuhan nodded slightly and took them. She scanned them with her soul power and found that they were correct. At this time, in the arena, Your Excellency Tianyang, do you still want to continue the battle? The referee asked in a trembling voice. If Tianyang had killed Jiang Wuji in a second, he would not have been so scared. However, Tianyang had killed an expert like Jiang Wuji with just a shout. Then, what would happen if he really attacked? Would he be easily killed by Tianyang as a referee who was at the peak of the Dao Fire realm? Of course. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. If he won, not only could he win spiritual stones from the gladiator arena, but he could also win spiritual stones directly. It would be strange if he did not continue. But what? Hearing this, the referee became nervous. It's too inefficient to go one by one. I've upgraded to a black martial artist. There should be 98 people left. Then, these 98 people come at me together, Tianyang said calmly. Hearing this, the referee was dumbfounded. 98 people at the same time? He had seen 1 against 3, 1 against 5, and even 1 against 10. However, he had never seen someone like Tianyang, who directly took on 98 people at the same time. This could no longer be described as crazy. It was simply lawless. The referee was in a difficult position. At this time, the communication token at his waist vibrated and a message entered his mind. Then, the referee said, "It's not impossible to take on many people at the same time, but 98 people are not in line with the rules of the gladiator arena. It has to be 1 against 100. The referee sighed in his heart. This young man's combat power was terrifying and his talent was unparalleled. In time, he would definitely become an almighty. However, this person had offended Nangong Feng. Then he was dead meat. This rule of 1 against 100 was passed down to him by Nangong Feng during the commotion just now. 100? Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. All right, 100 people come at me together. Hearing this, the referee sighed and nodded. He took out his communication token and sent out the message. In the private room, Nangong Feng looked at the message on his communication token and laughed wildly. No matter how strong you are, you'll still die if you offend me. The 100 warriors of the Nangong family are ready. Just wait to be torn into pieces by these 100 warriors. Nangong Feng laughed maniacally. At this time, the news of Tianyang taking on 100 people at the same time spread like wildfire in the gladiator arena. Tianyang took on the challenge by himself. The Nangong family had 100 yellow martial artists whose strength was comparable to a black martial artist. P.S. Because the update was late in the afternoon of the 8:30 p.m. update was brought forward to 7:30 p.m. Also, please recommend me. Chapter 317. Soon, 100 martial artists from the Nangong family gathered in the gladiator arena. Looking at the uniform family emblem on their robes, Tianyang understood the trick even though he did not recognize the family emblem of the Nangong family. A mocking smile appeared on Xiao Chen's face. Indeed, Nangong Feng only knew how to use underhanded means. Did he really think that 100 martial artists from the Nangong family would be able to block his way? Of all the things you shouldn't have done, you shouldn't have offended young Master Feng from the Nangong family. Among the 100 people, a tall young man who was the leader sneered as he looked at Tianyang. There's another thing you shouldn't have done. You overestimated yourself and sought your own death by challenging 100 of us. Why do you need 100 elites from the Nangong family? I alone am enough to kill you. That person mocked. Tianyang chuckled softly but didn't bother to reply. In his opinion, these 100 people were already dead. Why should he respond to the provocation of someone who was about to die? He would just treat it as doing a good deed and fulfilling his arrogant wish before he died. The spectators and even the people in the private rooms had already placed their bets. This time, other than the person who won 25 million spirit stones because of Tianyang, only Ling Yuhan bet on Tianyang. Even though Tianyang had displayed his unparalleled strength, the crowd still did not think that he would win after knowing that he was going to challenge 100 of them. This was because these 100 people were the martial artists from the Nangong family. 100 of them could easily kill a powerhouse who was at the peak of the half-step Dao Fire Realm. They could even go against a powerhouse at the first heaven of the Dao Fire Realm. No matter how strong Tianyang was, he was only at the peak of the 6th level Origin Transformation Realm. How could he go against 100 of the Nangong family's elites? Therefore, the spirit stones that were bet on the 100 martial artists from the Nangong family had already exceeded 5 billion spirit stones. It was far more than any other bet. On the other hand, Tianyang only had 2 people who placed their bets. One of them placed a pitiful 10 million spirit stones, while the other placed a bet of 75 million spirit stones. The odds for both sides were also very different. 1 to 100 martial artists from the Nangong family, 0. 5 to 1. In other words, even if the Nangong family won and you bet 1 million spirit stones, you would at most get 5 million spirit stones. On the other hand, Tianyang's odds had reached a terrifying 1 to 50. It was clear that the crowd, including the gladiator arena itself, did not think highly of Tianyang. Even Nangong Feng, who hadn't made a move yet, couldn't help but bet 500 million low-grade spiritual stones. Even though he was the young master of the Nangong nobles, it was still a huge burden for him to fork out 500 million lower-grade spiritual stones at once. It could be said that this was almost all of Nangong Feng's property. Looks like no one is optimistic about you. That tall young man was clearly aware of this situation as he spoke with a mocking expression on his face. Hearing this, Tianyang's face was as calm as an ancient well. On the surface, there was indeed a great disparity in this battle. He not NNS, he battles not to S's have not. So what about it? Tianyang smiled faintly. Do you want to come to me one by one and be killed by me one by one? Or do you want to come to me all at once and be killed by me? Hearing this, the entire gladiator arena fell silent. The face of the tall young man who was talking to Tianyang turned ferocious. How arrogant! I can kill you all by myself. How dare you spout nonsense here? The tall young man roared. In the next moment, he pulled out his long saber. The aura of a peak 9th level origin transformation stage exploded and engulfed the entire arena. Subsequently, the other 99 people also unleashed their auras. They were all at the peak 9th level origin transformation stage. Some of them had even reached the half-step Dao fire stage. Countless auras combined to form a terrifying pressure that made everyone in the audience gasp for breath. Under such circumstances, even if an ordinary person had extraordinary combat strength, they would be suppressed and eventually die in the hands of their opponents. It's difficult for you to move now. Those who dare to provoke the Nangong family are all dead. The tall young man laughed loudly. The long saber in his hand emitted a blood-colored saber light. He stared at Tianyang. In the next moment, he channeled his true origin and charged forward. His figure was like a ghost as he shuttled through the arena. In a short while, the tall young man arrived in front of Tianyang. The tall young man raised the blood-colored long saber in his hand and roared. Remember, the person who will kill you is me, Nangong Jiang of the Nangong family. Earth rank inferior martial skill. Wild wind slash. In an instant, his true origin attracted countless wild winds and gathered them on his saber light. In the next moment, a powerful and ferocious slash slashed towards Tianyang. Not bad. You have some artistic conception. Seeing the wild wind slash, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly and chuckled. Unfortunately, you still can't master it. In the next moment, a blood-colored light flashed in Tianyang's hand, and the killing sword appeared. Without wasting any time, the terrifying speed almost broke through space. In the next moment, a dazzling sword light met the wild wind slash head-on. Boom! With a terrifying explosion, the wild wind slash was broken. Under the influence of the chi, the tall young man spat out a mouthful of blood. In the next moment, Tianyong followed up with another slash. The 9th level origin transformation martial stage, tall young man. Nangong Jiang was beheaded. What? In the private room, Nangong Feng suddenly stood up and looked at the dead Nangong Jiang in disbelief. How is this possible? With Nangong Jiang's strength, even I have a slim chance of defeating him. Tianyong, it's only been a month since we last met. How could his combat strength become so terrifying? Nangong Feng's heart trembled. Too powerful. Tianyong's slash was too powerful. He still remembered that when Tianyong defeated him, it was not as easy as when he defeated Nangong Jiang. Although it was still a slaughter, it still took a few moves. However, when it came to Nangong Jiang, it was a complete instant kill. Tianyong killed Nangong Jiang in an instant without using any martial techniques. You've only killed Nangong Jiang. As for the remaining 99 Nangong family martial artists, each of them could blast you to smithereens with a single move. Nangong Feng roared like a madman. At this moment, the 99 martial artists of the Nangong nobles suddenly roared. Brother Jiang, little bastard, how dare you kill Brother Jiang? Brothers, let's attack together. Let's avenge Brother Jiang. That person roared crazily. In the next moment, all 99 martial artists of the Nangong nobles moved. All of them unleashed their strongest true origin and roared angrily as they charged toward Tianyong. The power of the 99 martial artists combined was so terrifying that even some of the Dao Fire Realm experts in the private room could not help but be moved. Under such a charge, Tianyong would definitely die. Ha! Looking at the 99 martial artists charging toward him, Tianyong chuckled. Not bad, not bad. I'll use you guys to train my dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps. In the next moment, he circulated his true origin. Chapter 3:18. Combat was always the best way to cultivate. Although Tianyong was a great emperor, only actual combat could help him master the 9 heavens roaming dragon steps, a half-step heaven-class martial technique. Boom! A terrifying beam of light shot out from the 99 martial artists. It gathered the power of countless people and blasted towards Tianyong. At this moment, Tianyong used the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps and disappeared. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. Why did he disappear? At this moment, a sharp sword light suddenly exploded in the middle of the crowd. Ah! A shrill scream burst out. Everyone trembled and hurriedly turned their heads to look. They saw a huge human head flying in the air. A pillar of blood spurted out. What? Everyone was shocked. When did Tianyong enter the crowd? Damn it. Hurry up and defend. The leader of the 99 martial artists hurriedly roared. However, it was already too late. Tianyong had already used the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps. His figure was like the Grim Reaper, shuttling through the crowd like a ghost. The blood-red killing sword in his hand was like the Grim Reaper's scythe, crazily reaping the lives of everyone. Tianyong is... Screams burst out one after another. The number of the 99 martial artists was also rapidly decreasing. However, the crowd still could not grasp Tianyong's movements. Every time, they could only see a faint afterimage. Bastard! The leader of the group roared. Get out of my way. I don't believe that this guy can still be invisible. This little bastard is only at the 6th level of the origin transformation stage. We can easily kill him. In the next moment, the terrifying aura of a half-step Dao Fire Realm was released and swept out in all directions, trying to force Tianyong's figure out. However, how could the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps be so simple? Although Tianyong had not cultivated the dragon's roaming steps, he had cultivated the dragon suppression steps to the limit. Just the dragon suppression steps alone could easily dodge the aura let alone the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps. You want to find me? The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up. His figure was like a phantom as he shuttled through the crowd. You're still too inexperienced with this show. In the next moment, Tianyang's speed suddenly increased. Every time the killing sword in his hand danced, a life was taken away. The killing sword's blood drinker ability completely erupted, crazily advancing through the slaughter. As for the 99 martial artists, their morale plummeting. With such an untraceable assassin slaughtering them like a phantom, even an Iron Man would tremble in fear. Don't panic, the leader shouted with all his might. The movement skill he used is definitely not a low-level one. This kind of movement technique consumed an enormous amount of true essence. Not many of us have died yet. Don't lose morale because of this bastard. At this moment, Tianyang narrowed his eyes. The killing sword in his hand flashed with a bloody light as he stared at this person. With our numbers, we can easily kill this little bastard. Don't. Before that person could finish his words, a blood-red sword light burst forth and chopped off that person's head. Blood splattered everywhere. The crowd that had calmed down because of that person's shouts suddenly panicked. The Nangong family martial artists were already scared out of their wits by Tianyang's phantom-like slaughter. How could they possibly join forces to fight against Tianyang? Almost there. If it's just killing noobs, reaching the peak of the second stage is already the limit. Tianyang muttered as he dashed through the crowd. The density of Tian Yuan's true essence was far greater than the average true essence. Therefore, even though he was only at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage, using the dragon roaming 9 heaven steps would not consume too much of his true essence. However, the slaughter today was like cutting grass. There was no difficulty at all. The increase in the dragon roaming 9 heaven steps was negligible. There are still more than 40 people left. It's too troublesome to kill them one by one. I might as well kill them all at once. Tianyang glanced at the battlefield and chuckled. Then he exploded with a terrifying speed and arrived at the center of the battlefield. The 40 martial artists who were struggling at death's door saw Tianyang's figure and gathered together in fear. It was as if they could fight against Tianyang. Nangong Jiang is dead. Nangong Wu is dead. Even Master Nangong Chong, who was at the peak of the half-step Dao Fire Realm, is dead. The remaining 40 martial artists looked at each other and saw the horror in each other's eyes. Dead. They were all dead. Those who were strong had all died under Tianyang's sword. However, Tianyang had a smile on his face. His entire body was as clean as new. Even the blood that spurted out did not stain his clothes. Even those in the spectator seats and private rooms who had seen countless battles could not help but be shocked. What kind of movement technique is this? This young man's somersaults and movements are too terrifying. Not only did he kill so many people, but he also did not suffer any injuries. Even his clothes are so clean. In the private room, an old man at the second heaven of Dao Fire Realm was shocked. Then he closed his eyes and asked himself. Finally, he opened his eyes in shock. Even he could not do it. In the middle of the field, Tianyang looked indifferently at the 40 over Nangong family warriors who were shivering like mice and spoke indifferently. I have no enmity with you, but you want to take my life because of Nangong Feng's bullsh *T order. I only follow one principle. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll pay them back 100 times. Tianyang said coldly. In the next moment, the soul power in his soul ocean vibrated rapidly. After his physical strength had been strengthened by the Void Thunder Hall, his soul power could finally be used to attack. In the Void Thunder Hall, my lightning doctrine cultivation has improved greatly. As for this move, I created it when I used the 9 heavens roaming dragon steps. Then, I'll use you as test subjects for my new move. Tianyang looked at the 40 martial artists in front of him and smiled. His soul power exploded instantly. Boom! Several obscure lightning runes appeared in the air and shrouded the whole place. In the golden runes, streaks of lightning flashed and accumulated an endless amount of lightning doctrine energy. So, this move is called Nine Heaven Thunder Prison. Tianyang snapped his fingers. In the next moment, thousands of lightning runes burst out with brilliant light. Boom, boom, boom. Countless lightning bolts burst out from the thousands of runes and rained down on the martial artists. The blue and white lightning almost covered the entire gladiator arena. In the eyes of the crowd, it was as if the entire world had turned dark. In this world, only Tianyang was bright. Is this doomsday tribulation? Seeing the endless lightning bolts raining down, a young man could not help but murmur. 1 second later, before they could even let out a scream, the remaining 40-plus people were all turned into ashes by the Nine Heaven Lightning Prison, which was like a lightning tribulation. Nangong Nobles, 100 Martial Artists. Chapter 319. Annihilation. Even a cultivator at the first firmament of the Tao Fire Realm would not dare to say that he could annihilate the 100 martial artists of the Nangong Nobles. However, Tianyang, a cultivator at the peak of the 6th level of the Origin Transformation Realm, did it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. In the private room, the cultivator at the 2nd firmament of the Tao Fire Realm exclaimed, "Not only is this young man's swordsmanship powerful, but his movement technique is also unparalleled. I didn't expect his thunder, Tao cultivation, and soul power to be so powerful. Without sufficient thunder Tao cultivation, it's impossible to condense and control those countless thunder Tao runes. Without a strong soul power, it's impossible to control them. If I'm not too old, I can even be this young man's disciple." The elder at the 2nd firmament of the Tao Fire Realm exclaimed excitedly. In the private room next door, it's over, I'm finished." Nan Gongfeng's face was ashen as he collapsed on the table. His eyes were unfocused. He had actually provoked such an existence. While they were chatting, countless experts had been annihilated. With such strength and courage, he would definitely become an absolute powerhouse in the future. Yet, he had offended him. The only method to kill him had been easily destroyed by him. He was dead for sure. And those spiritual stones, they're gone. They're all gone. Nangong Feng roared. Tianyang had won, which meant that the hundreds of millions of spiritual stones that he had bet on the 100 martial artists of the Nangong nobles were gone. Moreover, a considerable portion of them would enter Tianyang's pocket. In the audience, countless cultivators suddenly thought of this as they exclaimed in admiration. Their faces turned ugly. Those were the spiritual stones that they had painstakingly obtained. In the end, all of them had been lost to Tianyang. The only ones who were happy were Ling Yuhan and the middle-aged man who had bet on Tianyang. That was a terrifying payout of 150. He had bet all 30 million spiritual stones. In other words, he alone could get 1.5 billion spiritual stones. As for Ling Yuhan, she earned even more. She spent 157,500 high-grade spirit stones, which was equivalent to 575 billion low-grade spirit stones. Now that Tianyang had won the 5 billion had increased to 78. 75 billion low-grade spiritual stones. Even if it was converted to low-grade spiritual stones, it was still more than 700 million. Of course, some of the 700 million would be deducted by the gladiator arena, but the remaining wealth was still terrifying. More than 70 billion low-grade spiritual stones were enough to swallow up the profits of the gladiator arena for 100 years. Some of the second-rate clans in Night Dome City didn't even have 70 billion low-grade spirit stones to spend. If they were in the northern wilderness region, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan would be as rich as a country. I've struck it rich. Even someone as calm and collected as Ling Yuhan couldn't help but wave her little fist in the air at this moment. With over 70 billion, it was even enough to set up 80 to 100 vast ocean spirit gathering formations. As for the people in the gladiator arena, their expressions were extremely ugly. More than 70 billion low-grade spiritual stones? 7 million high-grade spiritual stones? What a joke. Their gladiator arena didn't have so many spiritual stones to pay for it. However, if they didn't pay for it, the reputation of the gladiator arena would be ruined. In the future, No one would come to their gladiator arena to fight. To the gladiator arena, reputation was much more important than spiritual stones. Referee, I won, right? Tianyang turned his head and chuckled. Hearing this, the referee, who had long been scared to the point of trembling, nodded. Lord Tianyang, you've won. As the referee's trembling voice fell, the entire gladiator arena was in an uproar. Even those who had lost money were so excited that their bodies were trembling. They were roaring crazily because of Tianyang. Countless young girls began to sway their curvaceous bodies in an attempt to attract Tianyang's attention. In the box, many of the Night Dome City's dignitaries were shocked by Tianyang. They couldn't say a word. 1 against 100, each of whom was at the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage. After 3 battles, he had become a noble, profound stage martial artist. He had achieved a never-before-seen 102 consecutive victories. Tianyang had created the legend of the Gladiator Arena, the legend of Night Dome City, and even the legend of the entire Firmament territory. Tianyang's name had become a legend at this moment, a legend that belonged only to him. Then, if I continue to fight, can I? Tianyang said with a smile. Hearing this, the referee's body trembled. He hurriedly took out his communication token, wanting to communicate with the Gladiator Arena. Before he took it out, Tianyang added, "The Gladiator Arena can't prohibit people from continuing to fight." Tianyang narrowed his eyes and looked at the referee. A dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Seeing this dangerous light, the referee's body trembled and he hurriedly nodded. On the other hand, the people in the Gladiator Arena were extremely helpless. The Gladiator Arena was built by the 4 big families of Night Dome City. Naturally, the people in charge were from the 4 big families. The person in charge of the Gladiator Arena was from the Beigong family. His name was Beigong Wu. This Tianyang is too. However, the Gladiator Arena doesn't have such a rule. Beigong Wu came to the spectator stand and looked at the smiling Tianyang and the mess in the arena. He was vexed. Then, he looked at his communication token and his eyes lit up. You want to challenge Nangong Foam? I see. I understand now. This is all because of the Nangong family. Very good, very good. I don't need to take the blame. Nangong family, you can pay for this. Beigong Wu laughed loudly. Then, he waved his hand and a man in black immediately appeared beside him. Go and investigate this Tianyang's background and the reason he came to the Gladiator Arena. If you want to make the Nangong family the scapegoat, you need more evidence. Beigong Wu said with a smile. The gaze that he used to look at Tianyang with became much friendlier. The 4 big families weren't harmonious. Great supervisor, I agree. The referee looked at his communication token and said with a trembling voice. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Then, he looked at one of the boxes above. Then, Nangong Phone, get down here. Tianyang roared. In the next moment, everyone in the Gladiator Arena heard this roar. Nangong Phone. What does this have to do with Nangong Phone? Everyone was confused. They had heard that Nangong Phone was from the Nangong family. However, although Nangong Feng's combat strength and talent were powerful, he was definitely not Tianyang's match. Why did Tianyang suddenly ask Nangong Phone to get down? I heard that Nangong Phone wanted to steal Master Tianyang's woman. When Master Tianyang was about to kill him, Nangong Phone said that it had to be in the Gladiator Arena. That's why Master Tianyang came. In the end, Nangong Phone shamelessly said that Master Tianyang could only challenge him after he became a black-grade martial artist. Thus, the legend of Lord Heavenly Sun taking on 100 people by himself was born. Someone who had heard bits and pieces of the news added fuel to the fire while he was at it. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Then, they cursed angrily. Damn, Nangong Phone, I didn't expect him to be such a beast. He wanted to steal someone else's woman? Serves him right. Master Tianyang will kill him later. That's right. Nangong Phone, get down here. Nangong Phone, get down here. Nangong Phone, get down here. Everyone roared in unison. Then, as if a single spark had set the world ablaze, the entire Gladiator Arena was filled with this uniform roar. Nangong Phone, get down here. Nangong Phone, get down here. After creating the legend of defeating 100 people by himself, Tianyang's position in everyone's hearts had been raised to the highest level. Therefore, as Tianyang's enemy, Nangong Feng was naturally condemned by countless people. Tianyang, on the other hand, was a little stunned by the deafening voices around him. In the private room, Nangong Feng, who had just stood up, staggered back a few steps as if he had been punched by someone when he heard the voices around him. In the next moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, no longer breathing. At the door of the private room, the servant who wanted Nangong Feng to accept the challenge was stunned when he saw this scene. Then, he shouted at the top of his lungs. Chapter 320. Now that Nangong Feng was dead, Tianyang had no reason to continue the fight. 100 consecutive victories was the maximum amount of spiritual stones he could get. Moreover, judging from Ling Yuhan's expression, the gladiator arena probably did not have the money to compensate them. What bad luck! Tianyang muttered. However, he still left the arena. He knew that if he continued to fight, the gladiator arena would definitely get anxious. After all, Tianyang's combat strength was obvious to all. In the entire gladiator arena, who could be his opponent except for those in the Dao Fire Realm? However, it was not easy to invite a Dao Fire Realm elite. Moreover, no matter how strong Tianyang's combat strength was, he was only at the peak of the 6th level of the Origin Transformation stage. Why would the Gladiator Arena send a Dao Fire Realm elite to deal with someone at the peak of the 6th level of the Origin Transformation stage? Could they be more shameless? Lord Tianyang, the head supervisor would like to see you. Just as Tianyang walked out of the arena, a middle-aged man who seemed to be in a high position spoke to Tianyang respectfully. Hearing that, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly. However, he did not mind and left with the middle-aged man. This was the gladiator arena. No one would dare to cause trouble here. Moreover, even if the gladiator arena wanted to deal with him, he could just use the 9 Heaven Thunder prison to destroy the entire gladiator arena. After mastering the 9 Heaven Thunder prison, which was a large-scale destructive martial skill, Tianyang could do whatever he wanted. The two of them shuttled through the gladiator arena. Soon, they arrived at the head supervisor's office. Please come in. Due to my authority, I can only bring you here, the middle-aged man said respectfully. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly and casually tossed some spiritual stones to him. These spiritual stones were taken from the 100 martial artists in interspatial bags. Since they were not his, he could just toss them to anyone. The middle-aged man caught the pile of spiritual stones in a hurry. After scanning it with his soul power, he was shocked. Even a casual tip was worth a whopping 100,000 spirit stones. Lord Tianyang is truly amazing. The middle-aged man looked at Tianyang respectfully until he closed the door behind him. Only then did he withdraw his gaze and leave the place. Tianyang, on the other hand, was looking at the tall, middle-aged man with his back to him with interest. Unsurprisingly, Ling Yuhan, who came with him, was also here. However, Ling Yuhan was treated with good tea and food and was not forced to come. Master, you've come. Ling Yuhan, who had just thrown a piece of Night Dome City specialty food into her mouth, immediately noticed the movement from the door. When she saw that it was Tianyang, she immediately said in surprise. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly and pressed Ling Yuhan's head, making her sit on the chair obediently. At this moment, the Gladiator Arena's supervisor, Beigong Wu, spoke. If I'm not wrong, you should be the famous sword King Tianji of Night Dome City, right? By the way, you're from Sky Blue College, 21st on the Genius list of the Outer Yard, and 1st on the Thunder Sea list of the Outer Yard. You're known as the first new student in history, Beigong Wu said flatly. Hearing this, Tianyang was not surprised. His performance was so outstanding that even a fool would know that he had to be investigated. And this just so happened to be all that they could investigate, and they wouldn't know anything more than that. In a few days, it'll be your 16th birthday. You're not even 16 years old, but you've already achieved results that many 26-year-olds can't match. You're really a young hero. Beigong Wu turned around and looked at Tianyang with admiration. He was over 40 years old, and his cultivation had barely reached level 1 of the Dao Fire Realm. Although his talent was not weak, he was only at the same level as Nangong Feng. However, Beigong Wu could only see 2 words on Tianyang: limitless. In the firmament territory, or even the central region, or even the entire heaven continent, there was no one as terrifying as Tianyang. Peak level 6 origin transformation realm at 16 years old. Although this was rare, as the core of the heaven continent, the central region would have such a person. However, at 16 years old, he was unparalleled in the sword principle, terrifying in the lightning principle, and was said to be extremely powerful in the array principle. Furthermore, he had such shocking soul, energy, and body movement skill. All of these added together could kill any genius in this world. Because of that, Beigong Wu began to attach great importance to the heavenly sun. Don't say too much. You didn't ask me to come here just to flatter each other. Tianyang chuckled and said. Hearing this, Beigong Wu's expression turned serious. He frowned and then relaxed. Indeed, then I will get to the point. Your partner won more than 70 billion lower-grade spiritual stones at the Gladiator Arena. I can't afford it, and neither can the Gladiator Arena. Even if it were 7 million upper-grade spiritual stones, we still can't afford it. Beigong Wu smiled bitterly. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. He didn't expect Beigong Wu to be so calm. I've already given the evidence of your conflict with the Nangong and Dongfang families to the 4 big families. Among them, the Beigong family will definitely protect you. After all, I could tell at a glance that you're extremely talented. If the Nangong and Dongfang families fail to kill you, they'll definitely suffer a great disaster. Beigong Wu grinned and said. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled and didn't deny it. With his soul energy at the peak of the Ascension Realm, as long as he released it like he did with the destructive thunder, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the entire Night Dome City would be leveled to the ground. Beigong Wu's statement was a little conservative. The Shiman family has always been at odds with the Dongfang family. Therefore, although they haven't seen you before, they're on the Beigong family's side. Therefore, the Nangong family and the Dongfang family will fork out 4 million upper-grade spiritual stones. However, they won't be able to fork out any more. Beigong Wu smiled and said. Hearing this, Tianyang was speechless. He had won something that the 2 big families couldn't afford. That was a little impressive. So, what are you going to do with the remaining 3 million? You don't have money, but you have your life. Beigong Wu smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang didn't hesitate and said directly, I want a part of the Gladiator Arena. Not a part of the wealth, nor a part of the facilities. I want a part of the entire Gladiator Arena. In other words, the shares of the Gladiator Arena. Hearing this, Beigong Wu's expression changed. The entire Gladiator Arena? The entire Gladiator Arena was formed by the 4 big families. If Tianyang wanted a part of the Gladiator Arena, he would be cutting meat from the 4 big families. This request, Beigong Wu said in a low voice. Before he could finish, Tianyang interrupted him. You'll definitely agree to this request. Tianyang smiled faintly and said, the Nangong and Dongfang families will take the blame for this. Of course, we're cutting flesh from their bodies. Hearing this, Beigong Wu's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 3:21. This is too much. This heavenly sun is seriously bullying people too far. Inside the Dongfang family, a white-haired old man smashed the precious table in front of him and roared. Every wrinkle on his face was trembling, showing his anger. Does he really think that he can do whatever he wants just because he has some strength? He actually wants us to hand over a portion of our shares? 3 million high-grade spirit stones is equivalent to 10% of the Dongfang family's shares in the Gladiator Arena. Our Dongfang family only holds 25%, and we have to hand over 10%? Otherwise, we'll fight until we become a heaven stage warrior. Damn it! The old man roared crazily, and the man who came to report was also trembling in fear. A heaven stage warrior would have to win 10,000 battles. There weren't many heaven stage warriors in the entire Night Dome City, and Tianyang's strength was close to it, even if he wasn't a heaven stage warrior. The audience was already certain that Tianyang would win. With Tianyang's strength that was comparable to a heaven stage warrior, he would definitely win. If they all bet on Tianyang, even if the gladiator arena reduced the odds of Tianyang to 1 to 0.1, they still wouldn't be able to afford it. Even if Ling Yuhan were to place a single bet, they would not be able to afford it, not to mention the countless spectators in the life and death arena. This move was simply too ruthless. Beside him, a handsome young man's expression didn't change, but a sharp, cold light flashed in his eyes as he laughed coldly. Seventh Elder, it's not impossible to give this 10% to Tianyang. Hearing this, the seventh elder of the Dongfang family was stunned, then looked at the handsome young man. What do you mean? Now that the Beigong and Shiman families are supporting Tianyang and we can't fork out 3 million high-grade spirit stones, we can only hand over our shares. But even if he can take the money, he still needs to be alive to protect it. A cold light flashed in the handsome young man's eyes as he chuckled. Hearing this, the seventh elder of the Dongfang family stared blankly for a moment before revealing a sinister smile. You are indeed my good son. This plan is not bad. We can't kill him in Night Dome City, but he's a student of Sky Blue College after all. He'll have to return to Sky Blue College sooner or later. And Sky Blue College isn't in Night Dome City. The road is the best time for us to make our move. The seventh elder said coldly, Qinger, you are also at the first level of the Dao Fire Realm. Although you have just advanced for less than a month, killing this brat shouldn't be a problem, right? Hearing this, the handsome young man, Dong Fong Qing, froze. Then, he grinned, revealing his white teeth. Of course, at the same time, in the Nangong family. Damn it. He forced my son, Nangong Feng, to his death, heavily injured Nangong Shun, and killed 100 elites in my Nangong family. This Tianyang actually wants 10% of the shares of the gladiator arena. You're going too far. You're going too far. The third elder of the Nangong family roared furiously. However, like Dongfang Qing, he immediately thought of a way to kill and steal the treasures. Nangong Shiitsu, you're at the first level of the Dao Fire Realm. You can definitely kill that brat. When he leaves the city, we can kill him and take back the shares that we lost. The third elder of the Nangong family said coldly. Hearing this, Dongfang Qing nodded slightly and patted his chest. Nangong Shi, will definitely kill a mere peak 6th level of the Origin Transformation stage with my sword. If I hadn't surpassed the Origin Transformation stage, how could the first place of the Sword Pagoda tablet belong to that Bulsh * T, Sword King Tianji? The middle-aged man, Nangong Shi, sneered. Hearing this, the third elder of the Nangong family nodded in satisfaction. Then, go and make your preparations. This person can kill 100 elites of the Nangong family, so he's quite capable. This assassination will be foolproof. Yes. 3 days later, Tianyang looked at the contract in black and white in his hand and nodded in satisfaction. During these 3 days of observation, he had also seen what kind of money-sucking hole the gladiator arena was. If there were no terrifying martial artists like him who kept winning, the gladiator arena could earn hundreds of thousands of low-grade spiritual stones in a day. If it was good, it was even possible to earn 1 million low-grade spiritual stones in a day. The 20% shares that the Dongfang family and the Nangong family gave up was enough for Tianyang to earn close to 100 million low-grade spiritual stones from the gladiator arena every year. I'll take these shares. However, I'll only distribute the money and won't manage anything. Is that okay? Tianyang chuckled and kept the contract. Hearing this, Beigong Wu nodded. The Dongfang family and the Nangong family also hope so. This is the best. Moreover, you created the legend of 102 consecutive victories and won against 100. You killed 100 elites of the Nangong family. Naturally, the gladiator arena will give you something. Beigong Wu smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang raised an eyebrow. What is it? The gladiator arena's heaven-class martial artist medal. The space bag moved, and a dazzling golden medal appeared in his hand. Then he passed it to Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang was shocked. A Xian-class martial artist needed 100 victories, an Earth-class martial artist needed 1,000 victories, and a Heaven-class martial artist needed 10,000 victories. A Shin-class martial artist in the gladiator arena was already above the rest in Night Dome City. An Earth-class martial artist status was even higher. A Heaven-class martial artist status was almost transcendental. It could be said that with the gladiator arena's Heaven-class martial artist medal, in terms of status, was not inferior to the elders of the four big families. However, Tianyang's shock was fleeting. This kind of thing was not enough to catch his eye. The reason why he was shocked was because the gladiator arena had actually taken out such an extraordinary item. Seeing Tianyang keep the Heaven-class martial artist medal, Beigong Wu chuckled. Then, he stopped smiling and said seriously, "According to my information, the Nangong and Dongfang families have already deployed spies at the various city gates of Night Dome City. If you leave the city, you will definitely be targeted by the Nangong and Dongfang families. At that time, you might be assassinated by Dao Fire Realm Elite." Beigong Wu said seriously, "The losses you have caused to the Nangong and Dongfang families have thoroughly angered them. It is reasonable for them to send a Dao Fire Realm Elite. Do you want the Beigong family to also send a Dao Fire Realm Elite to protect you?" Beigong Wu said. The Beigong family now saw Tianyang as a potential asset and needed to be on good terms with him. Therefore, Tianyang could not die. No need. Hearing this, Tianyang only smiled faintly, turned around, and strode out of the door. Different situations call for different actions. Dongfang and Nangong, these two families want to eat me. Chapter 322. After leaving the gladiator arena, Tianyang did not stay in Night Dome City for long. After all, he had only come here to challenge the Sword Pagoda. Now that he had completed the Sword Pagoda, he had an additional 4 million upper spiritual stones and 20% of the gladiator arena shares. He had made a huge profit this time. As for the extremely high status of a Heaven Stage warrior, Tianyang did not care much about it. After all, these things were illusory. Only strength was the greatest principle in this world. Without strength, even if you were a God Stage warrior, others could still bully you. "Master, you said that the two families would send people to kill us and steal our treasures. Why haven't we seen them yet?" On the way, Ling Yuhan asked curiously. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. "There weren't any before because we were still within Night Dome City's sphere of influence. Now that we're in the wilderness, it's easy to kill, steal, and destroy the corpses. So, the one hiding in the tree, come out." Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's expression changed slightly. In front of the two of them, a ferocious roar came from the big tree. "Your soul perception is not bad, but since you dare to steal from the Dongfang family, then you must be prepared to die." In the next moment, a black shadow shot out from the tree. A terrifying blade light shot toward Tianyang. "Back off," Tianyang shouted. In the next moment, an incomparable aura erupted from his body and blasted Ling Yuhan away. In the next moment, there was a flash of blood, and the killing sword in his hand flashed. "You want to take my life with this kind of insignificant skill?" Looking at the blade light that was enough to kill an ordinary half-step Dao Fire Realm cultivator, Tianyang sneered and slashed forward with the killing sword in his hand. Thunder God's sword. Boom! A terrifying sword light formed by thunder shot out. In an instant, it cut through the air and collided with the blade light. Waves of energy rippled in all directions, and a terrifying wave of air swept out. Seeing this, the black-robed man's expression changed slightly. "You can actually block my attack? No wonder you were able to kill 100 elites from the Nangong family. However, you still have to die." The man in black roared angrily. He actually stepped into the air and charged towards Tianyang. Dao Fire Realm expert. Upon seeing this, Ling Yuhan's expression changed greatly. Flying was something exclusive to experts of the Dao Fire Realm. The black-clothed man who wanted to assassinate Tianyang was actually a Dao Fire Realm ranker. This kind of expert could be considered to be above average even among the four great clans. At this moment, Tianyang's lips curled into a sneer. They actually sent out a Dao Fire Realm cultivator. This Dongfang family is really willing to go all out. However, the Dao Fire Realm cultivator wants to kill me? Not qualified. In the next moment, Tianyang's true essence surged, and the thunder god's sword crazily erupted. In the blink of an eye, it swallowed the saber light in front of him, and then exploded. Boom! Countless lightning bolts shot out in all directions like lightning snakes. The black-clothed man, who was flying in the air, was naturally unable to avoid being attacked. His arm was cut open and blood flowed out. The trace of lightning energy also entered the black-clothed man's body and suddenly exploded. Poof! A muffled sound came from the black-clothed man's body. In the next moment, the black-clothed man's face suddenly became much paler. His body trembled, and he actually spat out blood. Damn it, how dare you hurt me? Although this move did not have much of an effect, it had successfully angered the black-robed man. The long saber in his hand, which had already become an upper-grade treasure weapon, emitted a dazzling brilliance. The Dao Fire Realm's true essence shot out in all directions. In the next moment, the black-clothed man madly charged. Remember, the person who will kill you is me, Dongfang Qing of the Dongfang family. Earth Tier Inferior Grade Martial Technique, Earth-Splitting Divine Slash. Dongfang Qing roared and released the pressure of the Dao Fire Realm's first heaven. The ground under Tianyang's feet immediately cracked. Ling Yuhan, who was beside him, even found it difficult to breathe. This was the power of a Dao Fire Realm powerhouse. Even a peak 9th level Origin Transformation Realm powerhouse was like an ant in front of a Dao Fire Realm powerhouse that could be casually squashed to death. Kid, prepare to die. Dongfang Qing laughed madly and slashed the long saber in his hand from top to bottom. An incomparable saber aura erupted from the long saber's blade, aimed at Tianyang, and attacked with a terrifying speed. Is that all you've got? Seeing this, Tianyang only chuckled lightly. If that's the case, I'm afraid you won't get what you want. Sky Sword Technique, First Sword, Soaring Heaven. Tianyang casually swung his sword. In the next moment, an extremely sharp sword radiance shot out and fiercely collided with the earth-splitting divine slash. Boom! Radiance shot out in all directions. The terrifying shockwave even blew down the huge tree that Dongfang Qing was standing on. The ground under his feet cracked inch by inch. This sword was terrifying. Isn't the strongest genius of the Dongfang family Dongfang Zhua? Why is there someone like you? Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Dongfang Qing sneered coldly. Dongfang Zhua? He's just a good-for-nothing that was pushed onto the stage. How could a real genius be so weak? Dongfang Qing sneered. Then, the long saber in his hand suddenly slashed out. Only then did he manage to neutralize Tianyang's casual attack. This kid actually has such combat strength? Dongfang Qing's expression changed slightly. He's not even 16 years old and already has such combat strength. If he's given some more time to grow, wouldn't he be able to easily kill me? Thinking of this, Dongfang Qing's eyes suddenly became extremely cold. This kid can't be allowed to live. Martial Spirit, Azure Godly Bull, Dongfang Qing roared. The martial spirit in his sea of soul crazily condensed. In the next moment, it transformed into the shadow of a green godly bull that appeared above Dongfang Qing's head. Seeing this martial spirit, even Tianyang was slightly moved. It's actually the Azure Godly Bull. Looking at its grade, it's actually half a step to the Earth rank. It can barely possess a human body. However, the Sky Firmament Sword hasn't been upgraded for a long time. If it devours this Azure Godly Bull, it might be able to upgrade directly. Tianyang licked his lips. His eyes flashed with a blazing light. Seeing this, Dongfang Qing's expression was a little strange. Why did this gaze look a little like the gaze of someone looking at food? Damn it! How dare you humiliate me? You're courting death. Earth-splitting slash, kill him. Dongfang Qing roared. The true Yuan of the Dao Fire Realm, coupled with the terrifying power of the Azure Godly Bull, instantly caused the power of the earth-splitting slash to increase by countless times. Tianyang, on the other hand, chuckled. His sea of soul moved slightly, and the sky firmament sword appeared. This kind of food is a great supplement for the sky firmament sword, which is a mid-grade dark rank. I can't be bothered to waste time with you. Spiritual fire of destruction out. Sky sword art. Second sword, sky shatter. Tianyong laughed loudly. Using the dragon roaming 9 heaven steps, he used the void step secret technique and stepped into the sky. How is this possible? How can a transformation realm cultivator walk in the air? Seeing Tianyong's figure, Dongfang Qing's expression changed greatly. Tianyong could actually fly. However, before he could be shocked for long, Tianyong's sword had already helped Tianling break the earth-splitting slash and arrived in front of him. No! Dongfang Qing screamed. The power of the azure godly bull was urged to the extreme. However, this was useless. In front of the spiritual fire of destruction and the sky shatter, a mere half-step to the earth-rank martial spirit was like paper. The sky firmament sword also directly devoured Dongfang Qing's martial spirit. In the next moment, the 9-colored Xinguang exploded again. Chapter 3:23. Tianyong was no stranger to the 9-colored Xinguang. When he first started cultivating, the heavenly Xinguang had also appeared when the heavenly sword had a breakthrough. However, the previous 9-colored Xinguang had almost illuminated the entire mainland. Now the Xinguang, it only appeared in his body. In his soul sea, his internal organs, body, and soul were all illuminated by the 9-colored Xinguang. The 9-layered sky stairway Xinguang only had 2 colors. However, it benefited me greatly. Now that the heavenly sword has leveled up, it has brought the 9-colored Xinguang. I wonder what will happen. Tianyong stood on the spot and muttered to himself. The killing sword in his hand emitted a 9-colored light, as though it was also leveling up. The killing sword had the talent of drinking blood. It could level up through killing. However, there was a limit to this. Reaching the peak of the upper grade was already the limit. When Tianyong killed the 100 martial artists of the Nangong nobles, he was already close to this limit. Now, under the illumination of the 9-colored Xinguang, this limit was crumbling bit by bit. Finally, it broke through. The killing sword had leveled up to an inferior grade spiritual weapon. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan could not help but widen her eyes. Her dark eye sword and the killing sword both came from the hidden dragon ancient land. She knew the upper limit of the killing sword. In the end, the killing sword broke through the upper limit and became an inferior grade spiritual weapon. That was a treasure that even a level 1 Dao Fire Realm cultivator would covet. Ling Yuhan did not know that the one who had changed the most was Tianyong himself. Bathing in the 9-colored Xinguang, Tianyong only felt that everything about him was rapidly improving and perfecting until it reached perfection. Although his physical strength was strong, there were many hidden injuries and flaws left behind in the Void Thunder Hall. Originally, Tianyong could rely on time to recover. However, under the illumination of the 9-colored Xinguang, all of his injuries were healed. The hidden injuries were all healed. The flaws were all gone. Tianyong's body was already perfect and flawless. As for the soul transformation, it was even more powerful. Originally, Tianyong's soul power, which was sealed, could sweep away any cultivator of the origin transformation realm, comparable to the 2nd level of the Dao Fire realm. Now, the seal hadn't disappeared, but Tianyong's soul strength had strengthened again. Most importantly, Tianyong's soul, it was gradually materializing. When the soul materialized, it would be the primordial spirit. The power of the primordial spirit far exceeded that of the soul. Back then, Tianyong, the Tianji Sword Emperor, had only just condensed the embryonic form of his primordial spirit. On the other hand, Tianyong was at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage and showed signs of transforming into a primordial spirit. Perhaps he might even be able to successfully transform into a primordial spirit before reaching the heaven completion stage. This 9-colored Xinguang is truly terrifying. Only when Tianyong's body and soul had been strengthened to the limit did Tianyong slowly open his eyes and feel the changes in his body. His physical strength was much stronger than before. It could be said that even Dongfang Qing, who had used the Azure Divine Bull's possession, was no match for him in terms of strength. One had to know that the Azure Divine Bull was a demonic beast known for its strength. Tianyang was able to suppress the Azure Divine Bull in terms of strength. This level of physical strength was comparable to an ordinary true dragon. His soul strength had already reached the third level of the Dao Fire Realm. If he released the seal, the backlash would not be as severe as before. As for his cultivation, it had broken through to the seventh level of the Origin Transformation Realm. Out of the three aspects of essence, Qi and spirit, the increase in Qi cultivation was the smallest. The Sky Firmament Sword is a big secret. With the 9-color Xinguang's 9 steps to heaven, it has already transcended this world. What about the Sky Firmament Sword with a 9-colored Xinguang? Tianyang sighed. Then he summoned the Sky Firmament Sword and realized that it could actually transform into a physical body. Transforming into a physical body, an Earth rank martial soul. The Sky Firmament Sword has already reached the Earth rank. Tianyang was shocked. At this moment, the Sky Firmament Sword flashed, and a large amount of complicated and mysterious information suddenly came out of the Sky Firmament Sword and entered his body. Then, Tianyang hurriedly closed his eyes and carefully read the information. Martial Soul Talent, Devouring Heaven. The Devouring Heaven art could devour the power of heaven and earth and turn it into one's own divine power. Devouring heaven, destroying gods, and killing all things. Seeing the introduction of this secret skill, Tianyang's eyes widened. Devouring heaven, destroying gods, and killing all things? How powerful was this? Then, Tianyang carefully read it. The Devouring Heaven art can devour everything in its surroundings. If there's a martial soul, devouring martial soul. If there's a true yuan, devouring true yuan. Even if it is stone, grass, wood, soil, or even air, it can devour the power within. However, the current Sky Firmament Sword is only a lower Earth rank, and it barely reached that level. This martial soul talent is not too strong. Tianyang muttered to himself. With his experience as a great emperor, he immediately saw through the details of the martial soul talent, devouring heaven. However, he also saw that it was extraordinary. However, this devouring heaven and earth force is too overbearing compared to this martial soul talent. I am simply a weakling with a heaven rank medium devouring seal. Tianyang exclaimed. According to his calculations, if he used the martial soul talent, devouring heaven, he could maintain it for at least 3 minutes. Then his combat strength would increase tremendously. He was afraid that even a peak level 1 Dao Fire Realm expert would be easily killed. Because it was the Sky Firmament Sword's martial soul talent, Tianyang quickly mastered this martial soul talent. At this moment, a contemptuous laugh came from his side. I didn't expect that even Dongfang Qing would die. Even if this person is only a dabbler in the Dao Fire Realm, he is still a Dao Fire Realm cultivator. To be able to kill Dongfang Qing with just a 6th level Origin Transformation Realm cultivation, your martial soul talent is truly terrifying. A faint laugh came from his side. Hearing this, Tianyang opened his eyes. He saw Ling Yuhan standing in front of him as if she was facing a great enemy. Not far in front of him was a middle-aged man looking at him with disdain. However, you've met me, Nangong Shi, who is at the peak level 1 Dao Fire Realm. A mere 6th level Origin Transformation Realm cultivator will definitely die. Nangong Shi laughed loudly. If I kill you, not only will I be able to get back the 2 million upper spiritual stones and 10% of the Gladiator Arena shares from the Nangong family, but I will also be able to get more things from the Dongfang family. So kid, end your own life. Nangong Shi laughed maniacally. Hearing this, Tianyang squinted his eyes and the corner of his mouth curled up. He had just deduced the power of the martial soul talent. And now, someone had sent himself to be a lab rat? Master Run, my martial soul has a restrictive effect and can block this person. Ling Yuhan hurriedly shouted at Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled and pushed Ling Yuhan away and walked forward. You want my life? Then come and get it. Tianyang laughed lightly. Hearing this, Nan Gongxi's face instantly darkened, as if he had suffered some sort of humiliation. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Since you insist on courting death, then don't blame me. Intermediate Earth, rank martial skill, divine wind sword. Nan Gongxi roared and waved his long sword as he charged forward. Hearing this, Tianyang laughed lightly. The fusion of the sky cloud sword and the killing sword in his hand released a terrifying Xinguang. Martial soul talent, devour the heavens. In the next moment, the soil, rocks, trees, and flowers all trembled. An extremely large amount of energy exploded from the surrounding heaven and earth and crazily gathered in Tianyang's body. Even the divine wind sword that Nan Gongxi executed was almost devoured. This kid is strange. Martial soul, wind spirit sword. Nan Gongxi shouted angrily. In the next moment, he waved his long sword and charged forward. At this moment, Tianyang's aura was crazily rising. Peak of the 7th level of the origin transformation stage. 8th level of the origin transformation stage. 9th level of the origin transformation stage. Peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage. Then, Tianyang opened his eyes and looked at Nan Gong, she who was charging at him. He laughed lightly. Be on your way. Sky rank sword technique, second sword, shatter the heavens. A sword slashed out, shattering heaven and earth. The divine wind sword was destroyed. The wind spirit sword shattered. In the next moment, Chapter 3:24. When Dongfang Qing's and Nan Gongxi's soul tablets exploded one after another in less than 15 minutes, the two great clans fell silent. Dongfang Qing had just entered the first level of the Dao Fire realm and had passed the first tribulation of the Dao Fire. He also had the various treasures and martial techniques of the Dongfang family, so he was extremely strong. Nan Gongxi was already at the peak of the first level of the Dao Fire realm. He also had the support of the Nan Gong family and could easily defeat someone at the transformation realm, even Zhao Shanhe. Even if it was a massacre, it wouldn't be too difficult. However, these two people had died in such a short period of time. There's definitely a problem. The third elder of the Nan Gong family roared as he looked at the soul tablets that had turned into pieces. There's definitely someone behind Tianyang. Tell the patriarch and the other elders not to attack Tianyang for the time being. To be able to kill Nan Gongxi in such a short period of time, he has to be at least at the second level of the Dao Fire realm. It's definitely not something that little bastard Tianyang can do. There's definitely a top force behind Tianyang. We can't attack before we investigate thoroughly. Yes, the Dongfang family. What? The patriarch said we can't attack Tianyang? The seventh elder of the Dongfang family was sitting in his room. When he heard the news, he felt as if he was struck by lightning. My son Qing is dead. You're telling me not to attack? Just because you suspect that there's someone behind Tianyang? Bastard. The entire Night Dome City is ruled by our 4 great families. So what if there's someone behind him? Damn it! Damn it! The 7th elder roared angrily. Hearing this, the ordinary disciple who brought the news saw the 7th elder's furious appearance, and his heart trembled. He quickly retreated. The 7th elder roared crazily in the room. It was only a few hours later that he stopped. The anger on his face turned sinister. If I can't mobilize the family's forces, I'll find someone else. The Dongfang family can't kill you. The Nangong family can't kill you. But the Heavenly E Mountain can. Tianyang, I want you to die a horrible death. The 7th elder roared angrily. Then, he pushed open the door and took out the communication token with a face full of hatred. At the same time, Tianyang had already returned to Sky Blue College. 400 million high-grade spirit stones can almost support me to cultivate to the 3rd level of the Dao Fire realm. I might not even be able to use them all. Tianyang whispered as he looked at the large dimensional bag Ling Yuhan brought over. On the opposite side, Ling Yuhan looked at Tianyang with admiration. Dongfang Qing was one thing, but Tianyang could definitely kill people who had just entered the Dao Fire Realm. But Nangong, she was an expert at the peak of the first level of the Dao Fire Realm. In the end, Tianyang merely used a strange technique and killed him with a single slash of his sword. It was easier than killing Dong Fangqing. Master is amazing. Ling Yuhan's eyes were almost sparkling. With so many high-grade spirit stones, I can strengthen the vast ocean spirit gathering formation. As for the rest, I'll use it to cultivate first. Tianyang muttered. Then he took out 200 million high-grade spirit stones and put them into the dimensional bag. The rest were all given to Ling Yuhan. You can do whatever you want with the remaining 200 million high-grade spirit stones. I won't keep them. Hearing that, Ling Yuhan was stunned. Then, she hurriedly caught the 200 million high-grade spirit stones. 200 million high-grade spirit stones was equivalent to 20 billion low-grade spirit stones. This wealth was comparable to a second-rate force in Night Dome City. Even the 4 great clans would feel heartache over such a loss. Even if she cultivated the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword technique and had the 9-tailed heavenly moon fox bloodline, she would at least need to be at the peak of the 3rd level of the Dao Fire Realm to use it all. Tianyang did not even bat an eyelid and gave this wealth to her. Master! Ling Yuhan was so touched that she was about to cry. Before Ling Yuhan could say anything emotional, there was a commotion at the door. Then, Flying Sword's battered figure broke through the door and staggered into the room. In the end, he fell down before he could reach the chair. Flying Sword's body was covered with wounds that were bleeding profusely. Even the white robe of Sky Blue College's outer court was stained red with blood. At this moment, Flying Sword was severely injured. The aura of an 8th level of the Origin Transformation stage could not be seen at all. Flying Sword? Seeing that, Tianyang's eyes narrowed. He recognized the person at first glance. Then he saw the wounds on Flying Sword's body, and his face changed instantly. There was a faint flame of anger in his eyes. Flying Sword was one of his people. In the end, he was beaten up to this extent while he was not around. His aura was extremely weak. If it was not for the support of the Sky Blade Body Constitution, Flying Sword would have been severely injured and killed. Young Master, Flying Sword also noticed the commotion in front of him. Just as he opened his mouth to say something, his head tilted to the side and he fainted. Seeing that, Tianyang's face immediately turned green. Flying Sword, Ling Yuhan also finally noticed Flying Sword. Seeing that he was covered in wounds, her face changed instantly. What's the situation? I don't know. Tianyang shook his head. His face was extremely pale. Moving his space bag, healing elixirs appeared in his hand, and he stuffed them in a Flying Sword's mouth. Among the healing elixirs that Tianyang refined, the lowest level was the peak of the 2nd grade. The highest level was even at the beginner level of the 3rd grade. These elixirs had amazing medicinal power and were extremely easy to absorb. Tianyang even put the green wave spiritual jade that he obtained from the small island in the middle of the lake in the Onyx Mountain range on Flying Sword's chest. It greatly accelerated the healing of Flying Sword's wounds. An endless stream of life force gushed out, and Flying Sword's wounds healed rapidly. However, his injuries were too severe. Therefore, even with the help of the green wave spiritual jade, it was extremely difficult to completely recover. Seeing that, Tianyang's face was a little pale. He moved Flying Sword to the bed. After a while, Flying Sword woke up. Seeing Tianyang's face, Flying Sword immediately shouted, "Young Master, you must not go out. Zhao Shana's men are outside." Hearing that, Tianyang's face turned ugly. Ling Yuhan's face changed slightly. The number 1 on the outer court genius ranking, Zhao Shana? That's right, it's him. Flying Sword nodded. In the end, it affected his wounds, and his face turned even paler. Young Master, when you were in the Martial Skill Pavilion, did you meet Jiang Nanyu and fight with her for a short while? Flying Sword looked at Tianyang and asked. Hearing that, Tianyang nodded, and a trace of speculation surfaced in his mind. Zhao Shanha has always been interested in Jiang Nanyu. It's just that he was forced by Jiang Nanyu's strength and status that he didn't snatch her away. However, He would deal with anyone who got close to Jiang Nanyu. Young master, you weren't around these few days, so Zhao Shana couldn't do anything to you. Therefore, he targeted me. These injuries were all caused by Zhao Shana's men. Flying Sword said angrily. Hearing that, Tianyang's face turned extremely gloomy. He had only fought with Jiang Nanyu for a short while, and nothing had happened. How could Zhao Shanha be so vicious? I barely managed to escape and arrived at young master's courtyard. I used a formation to block the pursuers, but those two people are very strong. Young master, you must not go out. Flying Sword hurriedly said. Those two, one is the number 5 on the outer court genius ranking, and the other is number 7. Both of them are at the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage. Their combat strength is extremely terrifying. Even if I have the Skyblade physique, I'm still no match for them. At this moment, Tianyang stood up and said coldly, those two people are outside. Yes, young master, don't do anything stupid. It's good that they're outside. Yuhan, help Flying Sword to the door. I want him to see with his own eyes how I'm going to. Chapter 325. Does this Dao Fei Yang really think that he can sit back and relax just because he's hiding in this courtyard and protected by the formation? Outside the courtyard, 2 young men looked at the courtyard in front of them that was surrounded by spiritual chi and laughed wildly. I only need 15 minutes to break this formation. However, this formation is indeed extraordinary. It can attract so much spiritual chi of heaven and earth to gather here. I'm afraid that even our mansion can't compare to this degree of abundance of spiritual chi. The 2 young men laughed. Then one of the young men laughed and said, Brotherly, after we kill the Flying Sword, let's take this courtyard. In this way, we'll have more confidence to reach the top 3 of the outer yard genius list. Hearing this, the young man who was called Brotherly was stunned. Then the corner of his mouth curled up and he laughed. Indeed. Then, let's break this formation now, catch the Flying Sword, and hand him over to senior brother Shanha. There's no need. At this time, a cold voice came from the courtyard. The fog dispersed, and Tianyang's figure appeared outside the courtyard. His face was full of coldness, like an ice that would not melt for thousands of years. It made people feel as if their minds were about to be frozen at a glance. A faint and cold, murderous aura slowly spread in the air, and the 2 young men's faces changed slightly. Who are you? Where's the Flying Sword? The man surnamedly shouted, and his face became solemn. The person in front of him looked extremely young. However, his relatively strong soul power was slightly trembling, and waves of fear were transmitted to him. It was as if the young man in front of him could crush them easily. Behind Tianyang, the Flying Sword broke free from Ling Yuhan's support. Although his face was pale, he still insisted on standing. Looking at the 2 people, the Flying Sword's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly said to Tianyang, These 2 people are the top 10 geniuses of the outer yard genius list. Don't underestimate them. The one who looks rough and ugly is Li Xiong, who ranks 5th on the outer yard genius list. That skinny guy is called Zhao Gu. He's ranked 7th on the outer courtyard genius ranking. He is Zhao Shana's younger brother. All of them are at the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage. Young lord, you can't let your guard down. Dao Feiyang forcefully endured his injuries and reminded Xiao Chun. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression did not change. His face was still cold. In front of Tianyang, Zhao Gu and Li Xiong's eyes lit up. Flying Sword, you're finally out. How dare you work under someone who offended senior brother Shanha? Do you know what crime you have committed? Li Xiong sneered, while Zhao Gu sneered, ran his true essence, and rushed out directly. His fingers curled into the shape of an eagle's claw, and his speed instantly increased to a terrifying level, as if he wanted to capture and kill the Flying Sword directly. Do you have my permission to make a move in front of me? Tianyang glanced at Zhao Gu, and the true essence of the 7th level of the origin transformation stage in his body surged. The Sky Dragon's dragon core emitted a bright light, and endless dragon power condensed on his fist. In the next moment, Tianyang casually threw a punch, and directly bombarded Zhao Gu's body. Boom! A deafening explosion exploded on Zhao Gu's chest. Zhao Gu's expression suddenly changed, and in the next moment, an unparalleled force directly scattered his true essence. His entire body was blasted away by this punch. Puff! The blood in his body surged, and Zhao Gu flew backward for a few seconds before landing in a sorry state. Wiping the traces of blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhao Gu's face suddenly became gloomy. Who are you? How dare you protect the flying sword? Don't you know that the flying sword is someone that Senior Brother Shanhe wants? You're making an enemy of Senior Brother Shanhe by doing this, Zhao Gu said sternly. Hearing this, Tianyang glanced at Zhao Gu indifferently and chuckled. Who I am is not important. A person who is about to die doesn't need to know so much. Arrogant. Hearing this, Li Xiong, who had not made a move until now, was furious. As the fifth strongest person on the outer court genius list, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? A mere 7th level of the origin transformation stage martial artist was only able to send Zhao Gu flying by a trick. How dare you be arrogant in front of me, Li Xiong? You're the one who is about to die. Li Xiong roared, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The true essence of the peak 9th level of the origin transformation stage surged, and a fierce fist print burst out from his hand. Earth middle class martial skill, mountain crushing fist print. In the next moment, the fierce fist print burst out a bright light, and the waves that came from it seemed to be able to shatter a mountain. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression did not change, and the corner of his mouth curled up. Earth middle class martial skill? Not bad. But what kind of rubbish are you cultivating? The energy is scattered, the foundation is not solid, and the fist print is condensed like a fart. There are hundreds of flaws all over your body. You dare to use such a martial skill? Break! Tianyang shouted in a low voice, and then the dragon force in his hand condensed. Facing the terrifying mountain-crushing fist print, his true essence surged, and without any fancy moves, he punched out. Boom! The energy ripples burst out, and even the space trembled slightly. The soil under his feet was lifted up by the air wave and swept in all directions. The crystal-like fist print collided with Tianyang's fist. Huh! You actually dare to use your fist to deal with Brother Li's fist. This guy is dead for sure. Zhao Gu, who was sent flying by the punch, looked at Tianyang and laughed wildly. Mountain-crushing fist print was an earth middle-class martial skill. Even though Li Xiong had only cultivated for 3 months, Tianyang, an ant at the 7th level of the origin transformation realm, would only die if he faced this move. Li Xiong's face sank slightly, and he couldn't say a word. Crack, crack! A shattering sound rang out. Tianyang's lips curled into a smile as he suddenly increased his strength. Earth middle-class martial skill, mountain-crushing fist print broke. Countless energy crystals formed by mountain-crushing fist print flew all over the sky. Tianyang's punch even made the whole space tremble slightly. Li Xiong's face suddenly turned pale. The next moment, Li Xiong's throat moved, and he even spat out a mouthful of blood. It was only a single punch, a punch that did not even use any martial skills, but it had already caused him to be injured. Who are you? Li Xiong roared. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled. Aren't you looking for me? I'm Tianyang. Hearing this, Li Xiong and Zhao Gu's faces changed drastically, and they looked at Tianyang in horror. This was the person they were looking for? With such strength, how could he be Tianyang, who was only at the 6th level origin transformation realm? The information is wrong, Li Xiong roared in his heart. At this moment, Tianyang stood sideways, raised his right hand, and hooked his finger at the two of them. Come at me together. I'm in a hurry. Chapter 3:26. Come at me together. I'm in a hurry, Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, even the two geniuses who were extremely afraid of Tianyang's strength were furious. Together? Even Zhao Shana, who was ranked first on the outer court genius list, did not dare to use such a contemptuous attitude to ask them to attack together. Since you insist on courting death, then don't blame me. Li Xiong roared, and the next moment, he rushed out directly. Zhao Gu, let's go together. Kill this arrogant brat. Hearing this, Zhao Gu hesitated for a moment and nodded. A fierce light flashed in his eyes, and he immediately rushed out. Low-grade Earth rank martial technique, Dark Eagle Claw. Low-grade Earth rank martial technique, Sky Blasting Fist. Li Xiong and Zhao Gu roared one after another, urging their strongest true essence, displaying their strongest martial technique, and rushed towards Tianyang. Even Ling Yuhan couldn't help but sweat. Master is indeed master. Even the hatred is so stable. Flying Sword, on the other hand, looked at Tianyang with great concern. Young master, he will be fine. No matter what, these two people are in the top 10 of the Outer Court Genius list. Top 10? Can the top 10 beat the peak of the Dao Fire Realm? Flying Sword, you still don't know master. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan chuckled and looked at Tianyang confidently. Just wait, master will definitely avenge you. In the battle, Zhao Gu and Li Xiong had already blasted their attacks on Tianyang. No, to be precise, it was the Sky Dragon Fist. Boom! A terrifying force that did not seem human erupted from Tianyang's fist. The power of thunder contained in it even caused Li Xiong and Zhao Gu to suffer serious injuries. Stormy waves were set off in the hearts of the two. Tianyang was actually so strong that the two of them together could not do anything to him. Bastard! Seeing this, Li Xiong roared. How can this little bastard be so strong? Shattering Sky Fist, shatter him! Li Xiong roared madly. The next moment, a martial spirit phantom suddenly appeared behind him. Upper grade profound rank martial spirit, Dragon Blood Rhino. With the martial soul being summoned, Li Xiong's physical strength also skyrocketed. Seeing this, Tianyang just chuckled. However, seeing that his comrade was forced to use his martial soul, Zhao Gu roared, high-grade mystic ranked martial soul, Golden Dragon Python. Soon after, Zhao Gu's aura skyrocketed. Golden Dragon Pythons were extremely powerful magical beasts. Therefore, Zhao Gu was extremely confident that no matter how strong Tianyang was against his martial soul, only death awaited him. However, Tianyang merely chuckled in the face of these two martial souls. Trying to show off in front of your grandfather? Then, I'll let you experience what true despair is. Dragon King's Divine Fist. Tianyang roared and released the monstrous dragon power. The next moment, a terrifying aura erupted from his body, with an unparalleled dragon's might, instantly sweeping across the audience. Feeling this dragon's might, whether it was the Dragon Blood Rhino or the Golden Dragon Python, all of them trembled and their aura withered. No matter how strong they were, they only had a trace of dragon bloodline, and Tianyang's Sky Dragon body could be said to be a sky dragon. In the face of a real dragon, these hybrid races could only bow their heads. What? My martial soul, why is there no power? Li Xiong and Zhao Gu immediately felt the withered of their martial souls, and a look of disbelief flashed across their faces. At this time, Tianyang's Dragon King's Divine Fist had arrived. Destroy! Tianyang roared, and the next moment, the Dragon King's Divine Fist, with unparalleled power, shattered the two Earth-rank low-grade martial skills. Then, Tianyang took advantage of the momentum to pursue and take a step forward. The dragon-subduing concept of the 9 heavens, wandering dragon steps, directly suppressed the two. Finally, a punch was launched. Boom! Blood spurted wildly, and the sound of bones breaking was incessant. With a puff, the Dantian Chi Sea of the two burst. Their cultivation had also completely turned into nothingness. From now on, Li Xiong and Zhao Gu were two useless people. My cultivation. Tianyang, you actually destroyed my cultivation. With a bang, the two fell heavily to the ground, and they did not care about their broken bones and seriously injured internal organs. Feeling that his cultivation was rapidly fading, Li Xiong went crazy. Zhao Gu was the same, paralyzed on the ground, but still roaring wildly. Cultivation. Hearing this, Tianyang sneered, You touched my people, not to mention destroying your cultivation. Even if I want to kill you, it is not excessive." Hearing this, Li Xiong and Zhao Gu were suddenly shocked, while Dao Feiyang, who was behind them, trembled and showed a touch of emotion. Although he had the Sky Blade physique, in actual combat power, it was already the limit to enter the top 20 of the Outer Court Genius list, although there was still a lot of room for improvement. However, it was not much help to Tianyang. But Tianyang still treated him like this. Even if he was seriously injured, he immediately used countless precious elixirs, and even used treasures such as the Green Wave Spiritual Jade to heal his injuries. This kind of kindness, going through water and treading on fire, seemed to be a little light, but it was still not enough to be a cow or a horse. Tianyang did not know that what he had done had moved Flying Sword, a big man like this. At this moment, he came to the two seriously injured people with a cold face. Seeing Tianyang coming, Zhao Gu and Li Xiong trembled and wanted to crawl away, but found that their bones were all broken and they could not move. Just a small movement was enough to make them feel so much pain that they wished they were dead. It must be very uncomfortable to linger on like this. Tianyang came to the two and chuckled. Hearing this, Zhao Gu and Li Xiong trembled and seemed to know what Tianyang was going to say next. Zhao Gu went crazy and roared, "Tianyang, you can't kill me. If you kill me, my big brother Zhao Shanhe will not let you go, and my cousin in the inner court will not let you go either. And my uncle is an elder of Sky Blue College. If you kill me, you will die." Hearing this, Tianyang frowned slightly. He did not expect that Zhao family had such power in Sky Blue College. However, bang, Tianyang directly stepped on Zhao Gu's left leg. The nearly broken nerves transmitted an incomparably terrifying pain. Zhao Gu trembled all over and screamed incessantly. It's uncomfortable to linger on like this, and you still dare to threaten me. Then I don't mind making you feel more uncomfortable." Tianyang smiled softly. His space bag moved, and a green elixir appeared in his hand. With a flick of his finger, it went into Zhao Gu's mouth. Anyway, it was the blood demons. It would be a waste not to use it. Zhao Gu's body trembled. The injuries caused by Tianyang's stomp should have been enough to kill him, but with the help of this pill, he was still alive. Tianyang, without hesitation, stepped on him again. Kill me. Kill me." Zhao Gu howled madly. Tianyang's expression didn't change. He kicked Zhao Gu away and turned to face Li Xiong. Lina revealed a radiant smile that seemed harmless to humans and animals. Upon seeing this, Li Xiong, who was standing at the side, felt even more terrified. This heavenly son's means were seriously brutal to the extreme. His strength was terrifying, and his means were so cruel. Most importantly, his courage to stand up for his brother without fear of Zhao Shanhe was really extraordinary. Even Zhao Shanhe was not as good as him in this regard. "Don't worry, as long as you don't talk like this guy. I can give you a quick death." Seeming to see Li Xiong's fear, Tianyang chuckled and then asked, "Where is Zhao Shanhe?" Hearing this, Li Xiong trembled and looked at Tianyang in shock. He actually wanted to find trouble with Zhao Shanhe? "I'll count to 3. If you still pretend to be mute after 3, I don't mind stepping on you twice." Hearing this, Li Xiong trembled all over. Thinking of Zhao Gu's miserable end, he hurriedly said, I'll say, Zhao Shanhe is..." Tianyang listened and then exchanged information with the Flying Sword. After finding that it was accurate, he nodded. The Sky Sword condensed into a solid body and slashed down. The martial soul of the dragon blood rhinoceros was completely absorbed. Chapter 327. Soon, Tianyang learned the route to Zhao Shanhe's place. Ling Yuhan and Flying Sword, after seeing Tianyang kill the 2 top 10 geniuses, hurriedly followed up. "Master, what are we going to do now?" Ling Yuhan's eyes flashed with excitement. It seemed that Tianyang was going to find trouble. Zhao Shanhe treated Flying Sword like this. Maybe Zhao Shanhe would die. Ling Yuhan liked to find trouble, kill people, and make trouble. Unconsciously, the first outer disciple in Soaring Cloud sect had been led astray by Tianyang to this extent, Of course, we're going to Zhao Shana's place and have a good chat. Tianyang laughed, and the last few words were emphasized. The killing intent revealed in his eyes was not concealed. Zhao Shana treated Flying Sword like this. Tianyang naturally would not let him go. Flying Sword, you wait here. The green wave spiritual jade is temporarily for you to heal. Let's go to Zhao Shana's place first. Tianyang turned his head and said to Flying Sword, who was still seriously injured. Hearing this, Flying Sword also nodded, and his eyes were full of gratitude. By the way, it's not good for Li Xiong's body to be seen by others. You should be able to deal with it now, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Flying Sword nodded. Although I'm seriously injured now, I can still deal with the body. Later, Flying Sword took out a bottle of strange liquid from the space bag and poured it on Li Xiong's body. Later, Flying Sword punched out, and the strong wind brought by the fist bombarded Li Xiong's body. The next moment, Li Xiong's body was instantly smashed. It turned into dust and drifted with the wind. From then on, there was no Li Xiong in Sky Blue College. Strange, why is the effect of this liquid so good? The first few times I used it, it was really troublesome. Flying Sword looked at Li Xiong's body that turned into dust and completely dissipated, standing in the same place with a strange look. At this time, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan had already left here. Zhao Shanha, you gone too far? In Zhao Shana's mansion, a clear voice filled with anger shouted. Jiang Ninyu stood in front of Zhao Shanha with a face full of anger. Tianyang only fought with me for an Earth-tier martial skill. Must you be so ruthless? I don't even know him. Hearing this, Zhao Shanha, who was standing in front of Jiang Nanyu, revealed a gloomy expression on his angular face. That bitch. I treated her so well before, but she didn't even give me any face. In the end, she actually came to my mansion for a 6th-level origin transformation stage piece of trash. That little bastard, what makes him worthy? However, Zhao Shana's face still had a warm smile. Since I've already sent them out, that Flying Sword is dead for sure. As for Tianyang, I won't do anything. As long as he knows what's good for him, cripple his cultivation and break his limbs, then I'll spare his life. Otherwise, just wait for me to kill him with my own hands. Zhao Shana's face instantly turned ferocious. Hearing this, Jiang Ninyu trembled and roared in anger. Zhao Shanha, you've gone too far. Scram! What makes a trash bastard deserve such treatment from you? You should know how I, Zhao Shanha, have treated you all these years, and what's the result? I've done so much for you, and all I get in return is the word too far. Zhao Shanha roared crazily. In the next moment, he looked at Jiang Nanyu in front of him and revealed a trace of an evil smile. In the next moment, Zhao Shana's finger moved, and Jiang Ninyu felt her body go limp. Although she had a cultivation of the 9th-level origin transformation stage, she couldn't exert any strength at all. You, what did you do to me? Jiang Nanyu's face turned pale as she shouted. Hearing this, Zhao Shanha smiled evilly. Nothing much. I just added a small potion into the tea you drank before. I think it's called something like Hawan powder. Anyway, it won't harm your life. At most, it'll turn you from a pure and holy goddess into an insatiable slut. Ha ha! Zhao Shana roared. Hearing this, Jiang Nanyu's face changed drastically. Zhao Shanha, you're despicable. So what if I'm despicable and shameless? Ha ha! It's been 3 years, and I've finally gotten you. Zhao Shana roared. In the next moment, he was about to rush forward when suddenly a shrill cry came from outside the door. Not good. Senior brother Shanha. Someone is holding junior brother Zhao Gu's. Before that person could finish his sentence, he was abruptly interrupted. Then, a series of shrill cries erupted. In the next moment, Zhao Shanha could clearly feel that person's life force was rapidly disappearing. What's going on? Zhao Shana's face darkened. He didn't care about Jiang Nanyu anymore. After all, Jiang Nanyu had been poisoned by the Hawan powder and couldn't escape. He hurriedly opened the door and walked out. However, what came into view was a sea of blood. On the grass, on the wall, and even on the steps in front of him, there are the corpses of his subordinates. What? Zhao Shana's eyes were wide open as he stared at the young man at his feet who had died with his eyes wide open. He instantly lost his mind. Who did this? The true essence of a half-step Dao fire realm completely erupted. In the next moment, Zhao Shanha's soul power moved and immediately looked outside the courtyard. He saw a young man and a young girl slowly walking towards him. In the youth's hand was the half-dead Zhao Gu, who was struggling at death's door. My brother. Zhao Shanha's eyes were red as he roared crazily. Who are you? Let go of my brother. Hearing this, the corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up. He raised his head and looked at Zhao Shanha. Didn't you want to kill me? Why? I'm already at your doorstep and you don't recognize me. Hearing this, Zhao Shanha was stunned. Chapter 328. Tianyang, I'm going to kill you. Zhao Shanha's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Tianyang. In the next moment, his huge body suddenly burst out. Dragon-shattering fist. Zhao Shanha roared. It was as if a dragon's roar had erupted from Zhao Shanha's body and swept across the entire area. It actually contains a trace of dragon chi. Interesting. Tianyang squinted his eyes slightly as he felt the faint aura from Zhao Shanha's body. He laughed lightly and brazenly faced the attack. Shattering dragon. I'd like to see if you can shatter my dragon. Dragon King's divine fist. Tianyang roared as the Sky Dragon's dragon core emitted a bright light and a terrifying dragon chi burst out. In the next moment, it violently collided with Zhao Shanha's dragon-shattering fist. Boom! An extremely terrifying explosion rang out, almost shattering everyone's eardrums. Even the people that Tian's son hadn't killed were shaken to death by the shock waves of this battle. Ha! Tianyang, my dragon-shattering fist, is an upper earth-class martial skill. Its true power is incomparably terrifying. Just wait for your death. Dragon-shattering fist, shatter the dragon. Zhao Shanha laughed maniacally as his half-step Dao, fire realm, true yuan poured out and gathered on his right fist. Together with the dragon chi, its power suddenly multiplied. Zhao Shanha had once encountered an opportunity and obtained a rare treasure called the Dragon Stargrass. From it, he extracted a trace of dragon chi and merged it into his body. Therefore, Zhao Shanha was able to master the dragon-shattering fist, an upper earth-class martial skill. You want to compete with me with an upper earth-class martial skill? Tianyang laughed lightly as the Sky Dragon's dragon core was completely released. The dragon chi that was countless times purer than the dragon chi was completely released. I'd like to shatter your T-Dragon shattering fist. Break! Tianyang roared. In the next moment, as if the Dragon King's roar was above the heavens and earth, it resounded throughout the entire courtyard. The terrifying dragon chi was released, and the dragon chi in the dragon-shattering fist was directly shattered by Tianyang's dragon chi. The dragon chi then completely suppressed Zhao Shanha's body. Ah! Zhao Shanha screamed as his feet sank into the ground. At this moment, he only felt as if he was carrying a mountain on his back. His body felt as if it was bearing 100 times his own weight. It was extremely difficult to even move a finger. What have you done? Zhao Shanha raised his head and roared to anger hearing this. Tianyang chuckled and looked at Zhao Shanha. It's nothing. I'm just using the natural bloodline pressure of a magical beast to suppress that trashy dragon aura in your body. Tis TSK, if it was the dragon chi in a real dragon's body, I wouldn't say anything. However, with just the dragon chi in a dragon stargrass, you want to defeat me? Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Zhao Shanha's expression changed drastically. He stared at Tianyang and said in shock, How did you know that I refined the dragon stargrass? Even a fool can guess. Prepare to die. Tianyang sneered. In the next moment, the dragon chi in his hand gathered, and he threw a punch at Zhao Shanha. Damn it, I don't want to die. Mountain River martial spirit, come out. Zhao Shanha let out a furious roar. In the next moment, the terrifying dragon aura that was suppressing his body was instantly expelled, and a majestic mountain and river appeared behind him. Middle-earth class martial spirit. Zhao Shanhe roared and then revealed a sinister smile. You didn't expect it. I actually have a Middle-earth class martial spirit. How dare you insult my dignity and kill your way to my doorstep? You even dare to kill my brother and subordinates in front of me. Tianyang Dai, Zhao Shanhe roared. In the next moment, an incomparable pressure burst out from the mountain river martial spirit. Boom! It was as if the entire space was rumbling. The mountain river martial spirit, a Middle-earth class martial spirit, was extremely terrifying. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Although he had never seen it before, he could feel the terrifying pressure from the mountain river martial spirit. If he had the same cultivation as Zhao Shanhe, but his martial spirit was weaker than his mountain river martial spirit, he might really be suppressed by the mountain river martial spirit. Mountain river martial spirit, mountain river suppression. Veins popped out on Zhao Shanhe's forehead. It was obvious that he had used an extremely violent force. In the next moment, the mountain river martial spirit moved toward Tianyang. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He could feel the pressure from the mountain river martial spirit becoming stronger. However, if that's all you've got, you're still not qualified to suppress me. Tianyang smiled indifferently. In the next moment, a blood-red light flashed in his hand. The killing sword, which had been upgraded to a lower spiritual weapon, was released. After being modified by the nine-colored Xingguang, the killing sword now had a stronger and purer, murderous aura than before. The terrifying, murderous aura almost condensed into a substance and directly shattered the pressure. What? Seeing this scene, Zhao Shanhe gasped and looked at Tianyang in disbelief. How is this possible? This power is spiritual weapon. Zhao Shanhe roared. A greedy light flashed in his eyes. Spiritual weapon, even if it's a lower spiritual weapon, it can greatly increase my strength. Trash from a desolate place like the northern wilderness region. How could he have such a treasure like a spiritual weapon? Mountain river martial spirit, suppress him. Zhao Shanhe roared. In the next moment, the mountain river martial spirit burst out with a bright light. The martial spirit's power exploded. The suppressive force also exploded to the maximum and pressed down on Tianyang. Ling Yuhan's expression changed slightly. This attack was too terrifying. Even if she used the power of the nine-tailed moonfox, she might not be able to block it. However, master is master. How can he not block it? Ling Yuhan said firmly. At this moment, Tianyang chuckled. His martial spirit moved slightly, and the heavenly sword, which had been upgraded to a lower earth rank, was attached to the killing sword again. Although the heavenly sword could turn into a substance, it could only explode with the strongest power when attached to the killing sword. The power of a lower earth rank martial spirit and a lower spiritual weapon was terrifying. Sky sword skill, second sword, shatter the heavens. Tianyang roared. The killing sword in his hand suddenly slashed at the mountain river martial spirit. A destructive aura instantly occupied every inch of the air in this area. Then, the shatter the heavens, which contained boundless destructive sword intent, exploded. The annihilation spiritual fire burned and complemented the shatter the heavens. At this moment, Zhao Shanhe also let out a roar. Mountain River Town, suppress the mountain river, shatter the heavens. Boom! A loud explosion erupted from the center of the battle between the two. The heaven-shattering sword and the mountain river martial spirit thoroughly collided. The space trembled and the mountains and rivers shook. In Zhao Shanhe's eyes, the mountain river martial spirit that was invincible was blocked. Furthermore, from the looks of it, the mountain and river martial spirit was unable to block Tianyang's sword. No, how can this be? How can this be? My mountain river martial spirit is invincible. Zhao Shanhe pretended to be crazy. The true Yuan in his body surged out. However, in the next moment, the annihilation spiritual fire suddenly exploded and turned into a huge flame wave. Then, the annihilation spiritual fire suddenly rushed forward. The pitch-black flame wave instantly swallowed the mountain river martial spirit. In the next moment, the sky's sword moved slightly and the devouring power exploded. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Shana's mountain river martial spirit was completely devoured. After the martial spirit was devoured, Zhao Shanha immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and his aura weakened. Then, looking at Tianyang, whose aura had increased, Zhao Shanha was furious. "No, Tianyang, I want you to die." Then, Zhao Shanha's earthy yellow, true yuan trembled slightly. A touch of black appeared on this true yuan. At the same time, Zhao Shanha's aura crazily rose. Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. Looking at Zhao Shanha, his face became serious for the first time. This guy, he's possessed. Chapter 329. Bedevilment. Tianyang's expression changed slightly as he looked at Zhao Shanha, who was completely covered in darkness, and said in a low voice. Tianyang had seen a lot of bedevilment in his previous life. It was a kind of self-harming behavior. Through self-harming, one could forcefully increase one's strength. At the same time, due to the limitations of the demonic Tao, bedevilment would usually affect the user's mind. Back on the 9 steps of heaven, the heavenly Yin Mountain disciple Xiao Hao, who was extremely weak but had been clamoring to kill Tianyang, had his brain attacked by the demonic qi, causing him to become an idiot. However, it was undeniable that bedevilment would cause the user's strength to increase exponentially in a short period of time. At this moment, although Zhao Shanha had not passed the first tribulation of Tao fire, he had the strength of a first heaven Tao fire realm cultivator. He was invincible in the entire outer court. Tianyang, you insulted my dignity, interrupted my plans, destroyed my martial soul, killed my brother, and slaughtered my subordinates. I will kill you. The demonic qi gradually dissipated, and Zhao Shanha recovered to his peak state. In fact, he was even stronger. Those eyes filled with demonic qi glared at Tianyang, and there was a violent rage in his eyes. It was as if Zhao Shanha was going to tear Tianyang apart in the next moment. Your brother, your subordinate, is not even as dignified as you? Tianyang sneered, then raised the killing sword in his hand. Cut the crap. If you want to fight, let's fight. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Zhao Shanha roared and instantly exploded with terrifying speed. In less than a second, Zhao Shanha was already in front of Tianyang. Dragon shattering fist. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression did not change, and he raised the killing sword in his hand. Thunder God's sword. Boom! Streaks of lightning turned into a huge thunder sword, fiercely colliding with Zhao Shanha's dragon-shattering fist that was covered in demonic qi. In the next moment, both of them retreated violently. Zhao Shanha took a few steps back before he managed to dissolve the lightning energy in his hand. As for Tianyang, he only took 2 or 3 steps back before he devoured the demonic qi. The demonic qi is not bad. Although it is not as good as the demonic qi of the Outer Realm demon, it is still not bad. Tianyang chuckled. Zhao Shanha was furious. Little bastard, I only used 70% of my strength just now, and you're already so arrogant. If I use my full strength, you'll definitely die. Dragon-slaying hand die. Zhao Shanha let out a furious roar, and in the next moment, his figure appeared before Tianyang with a flicker. Similar to the dragon-shattering fist, the dragon destruction hand was also a high-grade D-ranked martial skill. What else can you do besides finding trouble with dragons? Hearing this, Tianyang coldly snickered and attacked with his sword again. Thunder God's sword. Monstrous thunderbolt struck out once again. Very quickly, the demonic qi black dragon formed by the dragon-slaying hand was crushed into pieces. In the next moment, countless thunderbolts struck Zhao Shanha's chest. Normally, Zhao Shanha would be able to defend himself with his mountain and river martial spirit. However, not only did he lose his mountain and river martial spirit, he had also turned demonic. Lightning, extreme yang and strong, open and aboveboard, towards martial artists that had fallen to the demonic path. It was the most destructive. Ah! Zhao Shanha crazily roared. The demonic qi around his body was almost dispersed by the sword. However, Tianyong would not let him go just because of his screams. Using the dragon's 9 heavens roaming steps, he directly attacked. Sunset swordplay, sunset decay. Another Yang sword heavily slashed onto Zhao Shanha's body, destroying most of the demon qi in his body. Tianyong, on the other hand, turned around and slashed again. Sky Extreme Sword Art, first sword, soaring heavens. The extremely sharp sword light slashed heavily on Zhao Shanha's back. Zhao Shanha's whole body trembled as a deep wound appeared on his back. One could even see the white bones of his body. Puff! Zhao Shanha was extremely sullen. He was the #1 genius of the Outer Yard, the #1 expert on the Outer Yard genius ranking. At this moment, in front of this unknown trash, Tianyong, he was actually in such a sorry state. After he had fallen to the demonic path, his battle strength was comparable to a level 1 expert of the Dao Fire Realm. In the end, he was even more miserable than before. This made Zhao Shanha start to doubt his life. Damn it, Tianyong, give me your life. Zhao Shanha roared. Waves of demonic qi erupted, and only then did he manage to shake off Tianyong's sword qi. However, Tianyong had already expected this. He chuckled and raised the killing sword in his hand high up. Within the Sky Dragon's dragon core, that trace of void lightning energy began to slowly condense. I'm not afraid of you telling others. This Emperor, it's great to kill Outer Realm demons. It's also great to kill demonic cultivators. Thunder God's sword, void lightning. Tianyong laughed loudly. Hearing this, Zhao Shanha's whole body trembled. He looked at the void lightning energy that had gathered tens of thousands of lightning energy in disbelief. He did not doubt that that sword could definitely kill him. No, you can't kill me. My uncle is an outer court elder. If you kill me, you definitely won't be able to stay in Sky Blue College. Zhao Shanha was completely flustered and hurriedly shouted. Hearing this, Tianyong's lips curled up, revealing a trace of a bright smile. I don't know how many times I've heard this. In the next moment, Tianyong no longer hesitated and slashed out with his sword, the Void Lightning Sword, which was comparable to a heaven-class martial skill, tore through the void and violently attacked. In the next moment, the entire space trembled. Countless spatial cracks were torn open. All of them were torn apart by the aftermath of the Void Lightning Sword. As for Zhao Shanha, he also desperately condensed his demonic qi into a shield. However, in the face of the Void Lightning, all of this was useless. Zhao Shanha screamed. In the next moment, the demonic qi shield was easily destroyed by the Void Lightning. Zhao Shanha was also swallowed by the sword. Not even his bones were left. The #1 genius on the Outer Court genius list, Zhao Shanha, had fallen. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan, who was watching the battle, suddenly jumped up and ran towards Tianyong happily. Seeing this, Tianyong also revealed a trace of smile. The flying sword's revenge had been taken. Master is so powerful, Ling Yuhan said with a smile, directly hugging Tianyong's neck. However, Tianyong helplessly shook her off and conveniently put away the killing sword. Although the Mountain River Martial Spirit was a medium Earth-class martial spirit and contained extremely powerful martial spirit power, it was too difficult for the Sky Cloud sword to evolve. The Mountain River Martial Spirit had only improved a little while stabilizing the Earth-class lower-class martial spirit. However, the Devouring Heaven Martial Spirit's power has also increased by a lot. Tianyong smiled gently, walked forward, and picked up Zhao Shanha's interspatial bag. The interspatial bag of the #1 genius on the Outer Court genius list must not be missed. Just as the heavenly sun neared, his soul power suddenly stirred. Then, Tianyong's expression changed slightly. He kept the interspatial bag and directly rushed towards the luxurious house. Chapter 330. Jiang Nenyu. Tianyong's expression changed slightly as he looked at the goddess of the Outer Court, whom he had met once before. However, the goddess of the Outer Court was not in a good state. Her aura was fluctuating and her skin was red. Just the fact that her true yuan was almost depleted was enough to make Tianyong's expression turn serious. What's going on? Heavenly Son hastily walked over to Jiang Nanyu. He extended his hand to check Jiang Nanyu's pulse, his soul power pulsing slightly. Immediately, he discovered the truth. It's actually the Hawan powder. So this is what Zhao Shana meant when he said he would ruin his plans. As a supreme alchemist, it was impossible for Tianyang not to know about the Hawan powder. The Hawan powder, as the name suggested, was a type of aphrodisiac. Moreover, it was a famous aphrodisiac. It was unknown which alchemist created it. Not only did he create it, but he also upgraded it step by step to use the first grade Hawan powder against the body refinement realm, to use the second grade Hawan powder against the clear Qi realm, and to use the third grade Hawan powder against the transformed essence realm. If it was the third grade Hawan powder, Jiang Nanyu's powerful cultivation should be able to resist it. However, this Hawan powder was obviously not the third grade. It was the fourth grade Hawan powder, to use it against the Dao fire realm. This Xiao Shanhe is really not a man. If he likes her, he should go after her. What's the point of drugging her? Tianyang sneered, but this sneer quickly disappeared. He looked at the trembling Jiang Nanyu, whose skin was as red as a flower. The original Jiang Nanyu gave people a pure impression. Now, the Jiang Nanyu drug with the Hawan powder had a hint of seductiveness on top of this purity. This seductiveness not only did not affect the original purity, but instead gave people a prominent sense of beauty. Her charm naturally increased greatly. Even Tianyang, who had seen countless beauties in his previous life, had an unnatural expression at this moment. Damn, I don't even know this guy. What's the point of taking advantage of others? Tianyang slapped himself in the face to wake himself up. Then he frowned. Tianyang's soul strength spread out. In an instant, the entire hall was under his control. In the next moment, Tianyang's expression became extremely unsightly. This Xiao Shanhe is really something. Even the air is filled with level 2 Hahuan powder. No wonder Jiang Nanyu was unable to immediately rush out to seek help with his cultivation. Even a first-level Dao Fire Realm cultivator might not be able to withstand the internal and external attacks. Tianyang frowned as he looked at Jiang Nanyu, who was writhing and moaning unconsciously. He made a very important decision in his heart. In his memory, it wasn't as if he didn't have any information regarding the Joyous Union powder. However, the alchemist who created this Joyous Union powder was also an extremely strong alchemy supreme. It was just that he was from the ancient era. If that was the case, Tianyang wouldn't have such a headache. However, this guy had created this pill, but not the antidote. However, the person who created the Joyous Union powder was an alchemy supreme. Tianyang was also an alchemy supreme. With his alchemy realm 10,000 years ago, he could be considered an alchemy supreme in the entire history of the Sky Continent. Compared to the alchemy supreme who created the Joyous Union powder, he could only be higher. The Joyous Union powder doesn't mainly use the characteristics of the medicinal herbs. It just uses the connection between the medicinal herbs to stimulate the instinctive desires of humans. Moreover, with the nature of the medicinal herbs, as long as one doesn't do that kind of thing, there will be a backlash. That's why it's so troublesome. Tianyang frowned as he looked at Jiang Nanyu, whose face was still flushed, and said in a low voice, Jiang Nan, you should have been acting up for a while now. He's about to enter a dangerous period where his vitality is depleted. If that's the case, his cultivation will also be hindered. Then, the most important thing now is to get rid of the effects of those medicinal herbs. This way, he won't need other pills to recover on his own. Tianyang muttered. Then, his eyes lit up as he immediately found solution. Tianyang retracted his right hand, leaving only his index and middle fingers pressed together. Then, just as he was about to tap his acupoints, his head hurt again. Tapping acupoints could temporarily seal some parts of the body. However, to get rid of the Joyous Union powder, the acupoints that needed to be tapped were many and complicated. Many of them were in sensitive positions. If it was Ling Yuhan, it would be fine. At least their relationship would be better. However, this Jiang Nanyu, he didn't even know her. Forget it. This is a matter of life and death. What's there to be afraid of? Tianyang's tightly knitted brows loosened. He made up his mind and directly channeled his true origin to tap Ling Yuhan's abdomen. This joyous union powder's medicinal power was fierce. If it was left alone, it would deplete one's vitality. In serious cases, it would harm one's life. No matter what, Jiang Nanyu and Tianyang had met once. Now that there was a solution, it was impossible not to save him. Just as Tianyang tapped, Jiang Nanyu's trembling body suddenly froze. In the next moment, a heart-trembling moan came from her throat. When he heard that, Heavenly Sun looked down and used his Emperor Realm, single dog, mental state to forcefully suppress it. He pointed down once more. Tianyang simply sealed off his hearing and tapped on Jiang Nanyu's body. However, the abdomen was easy to deal with. Tianyang was troubled by the parts above the abdomen. Who cares? Since I've started, in for a penny, in for a pound. Tianyang muttered. He lifted Jiang Nanyu's clothes and started tapping her acupoints. Luckily, Jiang Nanyu was still wearing her underwear. The acupoints that Tianyang tapped did not include the parts covered by her underwear. Otherwise, Tianyang would have completely offended this outer court goddess. However, once her clothes were lifted, Jiang Nanyu's exquisite body was completely exposed to the air. No matter how much Tianyang had experienced, he was still single for 2 lifetimes. When had he ever seen such a scene? Calm down, calm down. I'm a doctor. I'm treating patients now. This guy is repulsive. Tianyang took a deep breath. Then, he closed his eyes and used his soul power to scan. The scanning of soul power was more accurate than the naked eye. Therefore, Tianyang tapped her acupoints faster and faster. Jiang Nanyu's recovery speed also became faster and faster. In the end, Tianyang tapped, and the medicinal effect of the Hahuan powder was completely ineffective. The medicinal effect of the Hahuan powder was completely expelled by Tianyang into Jiang Nanyu's abdomen. It was gradually refined by Jiang Nanyu's own inner yuan, and Jiang Nanyu gradually regained consciousness. Her eyelids trembled slightly. Jiang Nanyu opened her eyes and felt that her upper body was a little cold. She sat up. Then, she saw the innocent-looking Tianyang in front of her. Chapter 331. Jiang Nanyu screamed and looked at the innocent Tianyang in disbelief. Then, she channeled the vital essence in her body and released a terrifying aura. Tianyang was caught off guard and was forced to take a few steps back. Jiang Nanyu also shouted, "You're acting like a hooligan." Tianyang, I say. Tianyang said helplessly. He had expected this to happen, which was why he was so conflicted. Actually, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Jiang Nanyu shouted. Then, she hurriedly took out a long robe from her space bag and put it on. Then, she broke through the wall and ran away with a red face. Tianyang turned around and saw Jiang Nanyu hurriedly put on her robe and fly further and further away until she became a small black dot. Some talented cultivators at the peak of the transformation state could also fly for a short period of time. Master, what's wrong? Sensing the movement outside, Ling Yuhan rushed in, thinking that there was some kind of mechanism inside. However, when she walked in, she saw Tianyang standing up with a speechless expression. There was also a human-sized hole behind him. This? Ling Yuhan was confused. Tianyang muttered, "It's nothing. It's just a dispute between a doctor and a patient." Hearing this, Ling Yuhan still looked as if he didn't understand, and by this time, Tianyang had already changed the topic. Zhao Shanhe has dominated the outer yard for many years and has so many subordinates. He must have a lot of treasures. I'm afraid that he only has a small portion in his space bag. We can't let others take advantage of these things. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded, not suspecting anything, and walked out of the hall together with Tianyang. Because the time was short, they did not smell the scent of the second-grade joyous union powder that was gradually dissipating in the air. Then, no matter how deep Zhao Shanhe hid it, it was nothing in front of Tianyang's terrifying soul power at the peak of the ascension state. Soon, Tianyang packed up all of Zhao Shanhe's treasures and left the first courtyard of the outer yard, leaving behind a pile of ruins waiting to be discovered. However, in the ranking hall, everyone in the hall went crazy. 5th place Li Xiong gone. 7th place Zhao Gu gone. Are they all dead? One by one, people were shocked in front of the outer yard genius list, looking at the names of the top 10 people in disbelief. Those in the top 10 were treated very differently from those below the top 10. After the top 10, there was only a number and a name, which took up very little space. As long as one was not at the front, almost no one could see it. The top 10 occupied 1/3 of the entire space of the entire ranking hall. One by one, the names of the geniuses were pasted on the ranking tablet, and there was even a simple introduction. These were the top 10 geniuses of the outer court. Normally speaking, apart from the inter-domain grand competition, which was held once every 5 years, it was extremely difficult to change the top 10. However, in just one day, 2 of the top 10 geniuses had fallen. Ranking was not low. Who killed Li Xiong and Zhao Gu? The strength of those 2 people is not weak. It's extremely difficult to kill them. Moreover, these 2 people died one after another. The time difference is less than a quarter an hour. They were definitely together before they died. It's impossible to kill them unless it's the top 3. A seemingly gentle young man squinted his eyes and analyzed. His analysis was clear and logical. Hearing this, everyone next to him nodded. However, in the next second, this wise young man's eyes widened. His pupils shrank to the limit as he stared at the first place. Everyone noticed the change in the first place. Like this wise young man, they stared at the first place with their eyes wide open. Since Zhao Shanna's rise 4 years ago, the first place had never changed. Now, after the death of 2 geniuses in the outer yard, was the overlord of the outer yard going to change? Look, it changed. Zhao Shanha's name disappeared. The second place is still him, and the third place is still goddess Jiang Nanyu. That is to say, a horrified voice exploded from the crowd. In the next moment, everyone held their breaths as they looked at the first place's distorted light that represented the change. In the next moment, Tianyang's portrait, name, and introduction had completely replaced Zhao Shanha. Zhao Shanha was also reduced to ashes. Tianyang, 7th level origin transformation stage, from the northern wilderness region, proficient in sword Dao and lightning Dao. Other information unknown. Compared to the other geniuses in the top 10 who had dozens of words-long introductions, Tianyang's introduction was short and simple. However, this short introduction was like a bomb that exploded in the crowd. Then, like a storm, it swept through the entire sky blue college. At this moment, Tianyang had already returned to his courtyard. Tianyang could not help but laugh as he breathed in the heaven and earth spiritual qi that was more than 10 times that of the northern wilderness region. He walked in. Flying Sword, who had been waiting in the house for a long time, hurriedly stood up when he heard the commotion in front of the door. He walked to Tianyang and Jiang Nanyu, who had just entered. "Thank you, young master. I will never be able to repay young master's kindness in this lifetime. Flying Sword is willing to be your slave to repay young master's kindness." Flying Sword knelt down on one knee and said to Tianyang while choking with sobs. Hearing this, Tianyang was shocked. Then he understood. A rare, gentle smile appeared on his face as he grabbed Flying Sword's hands and lifted him up. "You call me young master, so I can't just sit by and do nothing. All right, let's go in first. It's not appropriate to talk here." Tianyang smiled. Flying Sword nodded and wiped away the tears at the corner of his eyes. He invited Tianyang and Jiang Nanyu to take a seat before sitting down. "Young master, this is your green wave spiritual jade. My injuries are basically healed, so I don't need the help of this green wave spiritual jade anymore." Flying Sword took out the green wave spiritual jade and handed it to Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled and kept it. He could see that Flying Sword injuries were as he said. He had basically recovered, and the green wave spiritual jade was no longer of any use. The effect of this green wave spiritual jade is really terrifying. I'm afraid that even some of the rare auxiliary mid-grade spiritual weapons can't compare to it. After returning the green wave spiritual jade to Tianyang, Flying Sword couldn't help but exclaim. He had never seen such a treasure that could heal his injuries so quickly. In his mind, Tianyang's image became even greater and more mysterious. How could a person from a northern wilderness region be so powerful and mysterious? And how could he have so many elixirs and treasures? However, this question only lingered in Flying Sword's mind. He was loyal to Tianyang, so he didn't need to know too much about Tianyang. Now that your injuries are healed, there's no problem. But since you asked us to come, I guess you have something else to say. Tianyang smiled and said. Hearing this, Dao Feiyang's expression turned grave. He said, the last Inner Yard Grand Competition was 5 years ago. The Inner Yard Grand Competition is held once every 5 years. Chapter 332. Inner Yard Grand Competition. Upon hearing that, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Ling Yuhan's expression also changed slightly, revealing a curious look. They both looked at Flying Sword. Although their strength was not weak on the outer domain genius ranking, and Tianyang had managed to defeat Zhao Shanhe and take the first place, the inner domain genius ranking was not weak. However, their understanding of Sky Blue College was still not as good as Flying Sword, who was an experienced inner yard driver. The Inner Yard Grand Competition is held once every 5 years. In fact, it's to select some talents from the outer yard of Sky Blue College to enter the inner yard. Flying Sword said, then his expression turned serious. The Inner Yard Grand Competition is different from the competition for the Outer Yard Genius Ranking. The Outer Yard Genius Ranking is just a list. Many people want to be on it, but can't. However, there are also people who can be on it but don't. There are many hidden talents in the Outer Yard. There are also many powerful people who are not on the Outer Yard Genius Ranking. However, these people will fight in the Inner Yard Grand Competition. Flying Sword said solemnly. Upon hearing that, Tianyang nodded slightly. He also understood this point. For a real genius, being on the Outer Yard Genius Ranking was not a big deal. If it were not for the contribution points that he obtained every time he killed an opponent, he would not be on it. The Outer Yard Genius Ranking was actually based on contribution points. However, if one's strength was off the charts, they could ignore the contribution points and go up. For example, Ling Yuhan might be stronger than me. However, she is not on the Genius Ranking. There are many people like her among the hundreds of thousands of people in the Outer Yard. Therefore, in order to fight for a place to enter the Inner Yard, those people will definitely fight. When the time comes, it will be a fierce battle. Flying Sword said. At this point, he was also excited, and his blood was boiling. He had been in the Outer Yard for a few years. He was in the same period as Zhao Shanhe. However, because of his Skyblade constitution, he had never dreamed of entering the Outer Yard Genius Ranking, let alone the Inner Yard. But now, he had already entered the Outer Domain Genius Ranking. Even if it was the Inner Domain, he would still be able to obtain a spot. Interesting. Hearing this, the corners of Tianyang's lips curled up. He then smiled. I can see that you really want to enter the Inner Yard. Flying Sword paused for a moment before nodding. Indeed. After all, out of the 3 treasures of Sky Blue College, the Inner Courtyard had 2 of them, and the remaining one was shared between the Inner and Outer Courtyard. In the Inner Courtyard, other than the new students, basically all of them were at the Dao Fire Realm. The instructors with extremely high status in the Outer Courtyard might not even be a match for the students of the Inner Courtyard. Moreover, if one became a student of Sky Blue College's Inner Yard, they would have access to even more resources for cultivation. Naturally, the speed of their growth would also increase exponentially. Compared to the Outer Domain, the Inner Domain was not just a little bit stronger. Almost 90% of the Outer Courtyard students dreamed of entering the Inner Courtyard. Unfortunately, the Inner Courtyard only recruited a few hundred people every 5 years. A few hundred people compared to a few hundred people, this was too cruel. Out of a few thousand people, only one person would be able to enter. The rest would only serve as a foil. Back then, Flying Sword was one of the foils. However, today he had the opportunity to enter the Inner Courtyard because of Tianyang. Thinking of this, Flying Sword gratitude towards Tianyang deepened. However, your current martial technique is considered to have caught up. Although it's a little weak, I still remember some saber techniques. I'll pass them on to you later. Talent. Needless to say, the heavenly saber constitution is a heaven-defying talent in saber cultivation. I'm afraid even Zhao Shanhe would have to kneel in front of you. Cultivation, peak of the 8th level of the origin transformation realm. Not bad, but you still need to train. In this 1 month, you can spar with me, but Tianyang smiled. With just a few words, he was able to clearly understand Dao Feiyang's current state. Dao Feiyang was extremely shocked by Tianyang's insight. Hearing Tianyang say that he couldn't win, Flying Sword's heart instantly lifted. But what? There's another way to increase your battle strength. That's to change your equipment. Your saber is only a mid-grade artifact. Don't you think it's too lousy? As Tianyang's underling, you should at least have a high-grade artifact. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, Flying Sword's body trembled. Indeed, his saber wasn't worthy of Tianyang's current battle strength. This black saber was what he used when he was in the aura illuminating realm. However, he was still using it after reaching the peak of the 8th level of the origin transformation realm. If Tianyang didn't remind him, he would still be in the dark. When the time came for battle, the artifact would be destroyed by the enemy. That would be the end of him. Thank you for the reminder, young lord. Flying Sword said gratefully. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled and said, So, let's go to the artifact hall now. No. To Tianyang's surprise, Flying Sword shook his head. Then, a hint of passion appeared in his eyes. Let's go to Xiaoqiong City. In 2 days, it will be the Heavenly River Auction that is held once every 3 years in Xiaoqiong City. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly. Ling Yuhan's curiosity was also piqued. Flying Sword also began to introduce. Walking on the main road of Xiaoqiong City, Tianyang was a little speechless. He didn't expect to return so soon after he left. However, Tianyang didn't mind. Previously, he left because he had nothing to do. Now that he had something to do, he naturally returned. As for the Nangong family and the Dongfang family, forget it. He had killed 2 Dao Fire Realm cultivators at the first heaven. Tianyang didn't believe that they would dare to send out second Heaven Dao Fire Realm cultivators in Xiaoqiong City. If they did so, the first to disagree would be the City Lord's mansion. Moreover, the highest combat power of the 4 great families was only at the 3rd heaven of Dao Fire Realm. The 2nd heaven was already an elder-level figure. It wouldn't be easy for such a figure to deal with Tianyang. At least, the Beigong family, as a strong supporter of Tianyang, would definitely not let them make a move easily. Young lord, I remember that you haven't been to Xiaoqiong City many times. Why do I feel that you are more familiar with the roads than me? Looking at the familiar face of Tianyang in front of him, Flying Sword was a little confused. Shouldn't he be the one leading the way? Hearing this, Tianyang smiled and turned back. I came a few days ago, so I know. However, your Heavenly River Grand Auction must require an invitation, right? Hearing this, Dao Feiyang nodded his head. Then, his expression changed. The Heavenly River Grand Auction required an invitation. They didn't have an invitation. Wouldn't this trip be a waste of time? Hearing this, the corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up, and he chuckled. Then, of course, we won't go directly to the Heavenly River Auction. I know someone from the Beigong family. I'll go over and ask for a few. Anyway, they definitely have extra. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, other than Ling Yuhan's expression that remained unchanged, Flying Sword was stunned again. Beigong family? Know them? Chapter 333. Firmament Territory, Night Dome City, Beigong family. Beigong Yu was surprised to see Tianyang and the other 2 standing at the door. Why are you here? Beigong Yu's memories of Tianyang and the other 2, no, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan, were still fresh in his mind. During the test, one of them had caused the talent stone pillar to explode, while the other had achieved an unprecedented rank 9 talent, causing her rank 6 talent to explode. In the freshman trial, Heavenly Sun and Heavenly Sun had also obtained 1st and 2nd place with dazzling and terrifying results that were unbearable to look at. However, apart from the beginning, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan had not interacted much with Beigong Yu. Who would have thought that they would visit the Beigong family today? It's you. Tianyong was surprised to see that it was Beigong Yu who opened the door. However, he remembered that the Heavenly River Auction was a grand event held once every 3 years in Night Dome City. Beigong Yu was also a genius disciple of the Beigong family. She would probably come back to broaden her horizons. Tianyong was no longer surprised. He asked Beigong Yu politely, "Is Beigong Wu here?" Beigong Yu was even more surprised. "Why are you looking for my father?" Inside the Beigong family. Tianyong was speechless. He took a sip of tea and said to Beigong Wu, "I didn't expect that such a beautiful person like Beigong Yu would be your daughter." Hearing this, Beigong Wu laughed and didn't say anything for a while. Although Beigong Wu was not ugly, the distribution of his facial features could be said to be very unrestrained. If one looked at him alone, there would be no problem. However, when put together, he looked like a peerless villain. It was no wonder that Beigong Wu, who had a good temperament, ended up working in a bloody meat grinder like the gladiator arena. His looks probably contributed to it as well. That's what the Nangong family said. The idiot from the Dongfang family said it. The old man from the Shiman family said it. Even my father said it to me. Beigong Wu mumbled as he gulped down the tea in his cup. Mother of Asterisk, I'm ugly. Can't I find a beautiful wife? If my wife hadn't passed away early, I would have shown you what it means to be as beautiful as a fairy. Beigong Wu said loudly. Hearing this, Tianyong looked at Ling Yuhan, who was sitting obediently beside him, and then looked at Beigong Wu. Beigong Wu. Okay, let's not talk about this. Beigong Wu choked on the Tianyong and lost his interest in drinking tea. He curiously said, "You don't come here for no reason. You even killed the son of the 7th elder of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Qing. You also killed the Nangong family's Nangong Shi, who was at the peak of the 1st level of the Dao Fire Realm. You're now a famous person in the Night Dome City." Beigong Wu said with a smile. There was no lack of praise and admiration in his words. He was also at the 1st level of the Dao Fire Realm and had been in this realm for a long time. His foundation was very solid. However, he could only deal with Dongfang Qing at most. If he were to face Nangong Shi, he would definitely die. However, Tianyong, who was about to turn 16 in 2 days, had done something that even he could not do. This made Beigong Wu very regretful, but also very impressed. If it were not for the fact that Tianyong was sitting beside a peerless beauty who was comparable to his wife, he would have tried to matchmake Beigong Yu and Tianyong. As for the person involved in this plan, Beigong Yu was dumbfounded as she looked at Tianyong and Beigong Wu chatting. It was only now that she had the chance to interrupt. You two know each other?" Beigong Yu was in disbelief. Her father was at the 1st level of the Dao Fire Realm. If he had the chance, he would have the chance to break through to the 2nd level of the Dao Fire Realm. As for Tianyong, although she could not tell what cultivation level he was at, she estimated that he was not much stronger than he was during the test. At most, he would be at the 5th or 6th level of the Origin Transformation Realm. Moreover, Tianyong was only from the Northern Wilderness region. It was impossible for him to have any support behind him. Obviously, Sky Blue College did not count. Beigong Yu had been in the Beigong family for the past few days, so she did not know about the changes in the Outer Yard Genius ranking. Otherwise, she would not be so surprised. Zhao Shanhe was able to fight against the 1st level of the Dao Fire Realm and escape after 300 rounds of battle. Didn't he still die under Tianyong's sword? Tianyong did not even use his martial soul talent. Even the sky-shattering sword had not been infused with his own void lightning power. He had only used 50% of his combat strength, and that was the best he could do. However, Beigong Yu did not know that. At this moment, she was completely dumbfounded. She did not know how these two people, whose cultivation level and status were as different as heaven and earth, knew each other. On her delicate face, there was a look of confusion. "Of course, we know each other." As if afraid that Tianyong would deny it, before Tianyong could say anything, Beigong Wu laughed and said, "Your father is Tianyong's sworn brother." "Shut up. Who's sworn brother with you?" Hearing that, Tianyong knew that he had to say something. He interrupted Beigong Wu and then said to Beigong Yu, "It's nothing. It's just that your father wants to know me because I performed well in the gladiator arena a few days ago. Tianyang laughed. Hearing that, Beigong did not doubt him. In her opinion, other than this reason, Tianyang would not know Beigong Wu. As for the flying sword, his expression was a little strange. Wanted to know him because he performed well? If it was only for this reason, how could he be so familiar with Beigong Wu? Looking at the situation, Beigong Wu was clearly at a disadvantage against young master. However, Tianyang was only using this reason to fool Beigong Yu. Tianyang did not expect everyone to believe him. After solving Beigong Yu's problem, Tianyang looked at Beigong Wu. Cough, cough. I'm here for the Tianhe Grand Auction. I heard that if you want to participate in the Tianhe Grand Auction, you need an invitation. The three of us want to join the fun, but we don't have an invitation. So, we came to the Beigong family to take advantage of you. Tianyang looked at Beigong Wu with a bright smile. Beigong Wu was speechless. How can you say that you're taking advantage of us so openly? Is your face made of a city wall? However, Beigong Wu immediately responded. He looked at Tianyang with a strange expression. Little brother, don't you know what kind of status a heaven-class warrior has? A heaven-class warrior doesn't just have a high status in Night Dome City. Other than your status, the most important thing is your special privileges. As a heaven-class warrior, your status is equivalent to the elders of the four big families. With such a status, you can enter the Tianhe Grand Auction directly. Beigong Wu said loudly. Hearing that, Tianyang was a little stunned. Moreover, it's not just going in. After you go in, you'll be able to enjoy at least 10 beauties, cough cough, at least a private room. You're a person with a private room, but you came to me, a person who can only sit here bitterly, to take advantage of me. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Beigong Wu said bitterly. As for Tianyang, he was completely stunned. Chapter 334. Tianhe Trading Company. Today was the day of the triennial Tianhe Grand Auction. Therefore, the entrance of the Tianhe Trading Company was bustling with people. The Tianhe Trading Company was the largest trading company in Xiaoqiang City. Every day, there would be a huge flow of people. Today, such a grand auction was being held. In an instant, the entrance of the Tianhe Trading Company was packed with people. So many people, Tianyang muttered as he looked at the crowd in front of him. Because of the Tianhe Grand Auction, the entrance of the Tianhe Trading Company was surrounded by many onlookers. However, only a small portion of them had an invitation and could enter. As for Tianyang's group, Tianyang had a heaven rank medallion and could enter directly without an invitation. After all, there were only a few heaven rank medallions in the entire Xiaoqiang City. It was easy for the Tianhe Trading Company to empty a few rooms. Apart from the higher-ups of some large factions, the rest were not as important as a heaven rank medallion. Let's go. Don't waste our time, Tianyang said indifferently. Then, he walked towards the Tianhe Trading Company. A layer of true origin layer covered his body, pushing the people in front away without them noticing. When they saw Tianyang's group heading towards the entrance of the Tianhe Trading Company, the crowd consciously opened up a path for them. However, when they saw Tianyang's young face, they couldn't help but be shocked. Tianyang had just celebrated his 16th birthday. He could be said to be extremely young. However, such a person had an invitation to participate in the Tianhe Grand Auction. He can't be a genius disciple from the four major families, right? But the geniuses from the East Gate, West Gate, South Palace, and North Palace don't look like him. Could it be the city governor's estate? But isn't it just Feng Tianming from the city governor's estate? He's so young. Could it be a fake? The crowd couldn't help but whisper, "Halt! Today, the Tianhe Trading Company will not be conducting any transactions other than the Tianhe Grand Auction. If you don't have an invitation, please leave." The guard standing in front of the door spoke arrogantly. His body emitted a valiant aura of the peak 9th level of the origin transformation stage. When he saw Tianyang's extremely young face, a trace of contempt flashed across his face. With such a young age, could it be that he was trying to sneak his way into the auction? Brat, the Tianhe Trading Company isn't a place where any stinking brat can enter. You're still wet behind the ears, so scram. The guard sneered. Hearing that, Tianyang frowned slightly. His interspatial bag flashed, and the Gladiator Arena's Heaven-class martial artist medal appeared in his hand. With this, I can go in, right? Tianyong said indifferently. It was not worthwhile for him to bicker with a guard. Hearing this, the guard was stunned. Then, he looked at the Heaven-class warrior token in Tianyong's hand and burst into laughter. I thought you had an invitation. In the end, you only took out a lousy medal and you want to sneak in? Brat, I advise you to leave as soon as possible. The Tianhe Grand Auction isn't a place where any Tom, Dick, or Harry can enter. The guard mocked. Hearing this, Tianyong's face darkened. The crowd behind him also burst into boos. I knew it. How could he enter the Tianhe Grand Auction at such a young age? Even I, a half-step Dao Fire Realm cultivator, can't enter. How could he? A half-step Dao Fire Realm cultivator mocked with a sour tone. The others also whispered among themselves. They were all laughing at Tianyong. Still not leaving? Seeing that Tianyong was still standing in the same spot, the guard was instantly enraged. This brat, still not leaving? This was simply a challenge to his authority. If you don't leave, don't blame me for attacking. Brat, how dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Die! The guard shouted angrily. In the next moment, the long spear in his hand exploded with streaks of lightning and directly blasted towards Tianyong. This brat probably doesn't know that this guard is not an ordinary person. He's the nephew of the manager of the Tianhe trading firm. Usually, if someone wants to enter, they have to pay him some spiritual stones. Now, the Tianhe Grand Auction is starting, but this brat ignored the guard. He's probably in trouble. The crowd exclaimed. Hearing this, Tianyong frowned slightly. Looking at the long spear that was emitting streaks of lightning, he pointed his finger. The true essence of a 7th-level origin transformation realm cultivator exploded, containing the power of lightning. The extremely powerful lightning, Dao, cultivation, immediately exploded. Boom! The lightning tore apart and the long spear shattered. In front of Tianyong's extremely powerful lightning Dao cultivation, this level of technique was no different from tofu. It was broken in one hit. The guard spat out blood and staggered a few steps back. He was directly knocked to the ground. In the next moment, the arrogance on his face suddenly turned into rage. Little bastard, how dare you resist? I'm going to kill you. Mystic class upper grade martial technique, flowing water rock fist. The guard roared angrily. His majestic true essence completely exploded. He stood up and attacked Tianyong with his bare hands. Stop! At this moment, an angry roar came from the Tianhe trading firm. The pressure of a first-level Dao Fire Realm cultivator instantly spread throughout the entire place. Hearing this voice, the guard's body suddenly froze. A middle-aged man walked out of the Tianhe trading firm and shouted angrily. Then he saw the injured guard and his face instantly turned gloomy. What happened? Seeing this, the surrounding crowd sighed. The guard's uncle has come out. This young man is dead. Even if he doesn't die, he'll break 3 of his legs. Hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows and looked at the pot-bellied middle-aged man. His tone was slightly cold. I took out the proof and can already enter, but you, the guard, insisted on stopping me and even threatened to kill me. Is this how the Tianhe trading firm does things? Tianyong said coldly. His words seemed to carry an endless pressure, suppressing the entire place. For a moment, everyone was suppressed into silence. In the entire world, only Tianyong's voice sounded. However, even so, there were still people secretly sighing. This kid, don't tell me he doesn't know that this person is the guard's backer? Sigh, he's dead for sure. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was incomparably furious. You actually dare to injure my people in my territory? Kid, you're courting death. The middle-aged man was furious and was about to kill Tianyong. However, in the next moment, he saw the heaven-rank martial artist medal in Tianyong's hand. The anger on his face instantly turned into shock. Heaven-rank martial artist? Seeing this, the middle-aged man broke out in a cold sweat. He took a closer look at the medal and confirmed it without a doubt. This was definitely the heaven-rank martial artist medal of the life and death arena. That's right, Tianyang said coldly. Heaven-rank martial artists don't need an invitation to enter. But not only did this person stop me, he even threatened to kill me. I'm already giving face to the Tianhe trading firm by not killing him. At this point, Tianyang's face revealed a trace of coldness. Tell me, how should I deal with this? Hearing this, the middle-aged man trembled all over. Looking at Tianyang, his legs went soft, and he almost knelt down. A heaven-rank martial artist was an existence that he would not dare to provoke, even if he was beaten to death. Such an existence could crush him, a small manager, to death with a wave of his hand. In the end, his nephew actually wanted to kill him. This was simply courting death. Not only was he courting his own death, but he would also implicate the middle-aged man. Following that, the middle-aged man turned directly to the guard. Seeing this, the guard said angrily, "How can he be a heaven-rank martial artist? This medal is definitely fake. Uncle, you must help me. Help your ass. I'll beat you to death right now." The middle-aged man roared angrily and went forward to slap him. There were countless big shots in Shaoqiong City, but there were only a few people who could possess a heaven-rank martial artist medal. Even the vice president of the Tianhe Trading Company would have to treat a heaven-stage martial artist with respect and courtesy, let alone a small manager like him. From today onwards, you are no longer a guard of my Tianhe trading firm. Get lost. A mouthful of blood mixed with more than 10 teeth spurted out of the guard's mouth. The guard's face was filled with disbelief, and he even used a vague voice to say, "Uncle, scram." The middle-aged man roared again, his tone incomparably fierce. Hearing this, the guard's entire body trembled, and he hurriedly fled. Before leaving, he did not forget to glare at Tianyang with hatred.